let's go ahead and get started. First thing we do is introductions, right? So, hello everybody.
Generally a good place to start.
I
Yeah,
hope so.
hello everybody. For those of you that are watching the YouTube video or are tuning in just now, my name is Ardent. I'm doing a small kind of podcast series with myself and some friends, talking about changes going into the upcoming expansion Endwalker, and just kind of um, first impressions and stuff on jobs that we will be playing eventually. Maybe not right away for everything, but definitely going to be touching up on. Um, and yeah, so yeah, my name is Ardent. I play healer for the most part. I like playing pretty much everything. I have a job that I like to play on every role. I mostly play healer. And my second favorite color right now is, let's go with brown. Yeah, brown's my second favorite color right now.
Is there any way that I could potentially convince you to tell us which of the jobs we're here to talk about today you prefer to play?
Which of the jobs that I played that we're trying to talk about today?
If you had to pick a melee DPS,
Yeah. I guess. Well, I play a shit ton of samurai when I do play melee. And then I'm actually really interested in seeing how monk plays out eventually. So yeah. I suck at ninja and I suck at dragoon. And I don't really care to play either of those. But I'm gonna level them to 80, I mean 90 anyways, and I'm just gonna suck massive ass like that. But yeah. All right. Next person, we're gonna go in alphabetical order. Yeah, it's you, Brad. Fuck you.
hello again. If you've watched any of the previous videos in this series, you know me as the guy who won't shut up, but thankfully this time I will be able to hold my voice in, especially considering how late it is uh, on my side of the country. I'm Brad. I also mostly play healer. I guess I would say my second favorite color is probably crimson, and if I had to pick which melee job I suck at the least, God, I guess it would be ninja.
Yeah, probably.
Monk is. I've never wanted to get good at monk, and dragoon is an absolute mystery to me. And samurai, I mean, any guy can play samurai, so I prefer to challenge myself ever so slightly more with the
Oh
higher
man,
APM type job
you're
of
just
ninja.
asking me to take
Oh my
Astro next
god.
X pack. Oh my god, bro.
You
Holy
can't.
crap.
If you take Astro, I'll just play Sage. You can't
Mm,
play them both at the same
yes, I
time.
can. I will figure it out, bitch.
Oh my god.
Controllers. Anyway, continuing in alphabetical order.
Uh wow, it's weird actually introducing myself by an online name, but
You should have
norm
picked a name that's just a person name. It worked well for me.
I know I really should have, but I had to be a Kingdom Hearts nerd.
Who are you, mystery heathen?
Oh my god. Well, normal online, I'm Nox, but uh these guys, namely Brad, mostly knows me as Soul.
I'm capable of learning multiple names. If you'd like me to call you Nox for the
I
duration of this, I'll just do that.
I mean, at the beginning of my Final Fantasy like play period. I almost said career.
It's
Mm,
basically what it is.
Yeah.
at this
I
point, yeah.
I went by Zuzu for the longest time because I had a lore-friendly Lalafell name, so it
I
does.
can learn a lot of names, but I'm not going to call you Zuzu no matter how much you ask.
But yeah, so Nox or Soul both work. I
Oh,
am the melee main of
I need
the
to
three of us.
change.
Not hard. You're a melee main. Don't make it sound like we had to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find you. Like, what do you play in raid these past couple of
So
years?
this past year, because I haven't really like seriously raided for since Heavensward, or well, no, beginning of Stormblood really. But this past year I started it on Ninja. Hated the cooldown time, like the cooldown timing lineup, so I went back to Dragoon, which is what I started the game as. Finished the tier as it, and yeah,
And then we had you do some machinist so that we can
yeah,
conceivably wrangle
I've
you in
like
for another episode.
I've
Mm.
done some machinist stuff. I did a little bit of tanking this tier because we needed one, but yeah, I like playing the melee range classes, which is funny because in other MMOs I play mages.
Mm-hmm.
But
But,
you hate cast times.
I hate the cast time specifically in Final Fantasy.
Gotcha.
It's weird and I don't understand it, but I just roll with it.
It's okay. I need your second favorite color though.
Yeah, I was getting to that. My second favorite color, I'm going with Celeste Green. It's RGB 178, 255, 255. I learned that today.
Mm,
Yeah, I don't know.
that's
What
good.
else do I need to say?
Oddly specific. If
What
you're
else can
picking
you
a
say?
melee,
A shit ton.
so what melee class are you interested to play the most in Endwalker?
I mean, I'm gonna play through the story first as Reaper, and then see if I want to continue with that. It's my first impressions. I'm leaning towards it at least for the first tier.
Mhm.
Kind of a pattern I have with new Melee DPS, but yeah, it really helps. Reaper shares gear with Dragoon, so
Yeah.
well, we have Ori, so I can't really do that. But yeah, I'm gonna go through his Reaper. The ninja changes are interesting. Probably give Monk a fair try now.
Yeah.
I
gotcha.
haven't actually like learned any new Monk things since Heavensward. Heavensward, I actually learned how to play it properly. But Stormblood, I did not. I was like, whatever, you're leveled, and then Endwalker was the same deal. I did try an
Shadowbringers.
Endwalker, or Shadowbringers. Wow, I'm ahead of myself.
It's okay.
Shadowbringers, I did try and learn Monk like a couple months ago, and that Dragon Kick boot shine back and forth is really tight, even with like minuscule movement.
It's a weird way to say janky as fuck.
It's trying to be
I would-
kind.
I don't like using that term for like anything but like the pet stuff in this game.
The pets are so jank that they have seized control of the word.
But yeah. I am just like I'm really impressed with a bunch of the melee stuff going on. So I might actually just try and go Omni. Like actually honest to God learn all of them properly to the point where I could take them into raid. So
3 different sets of gear for upkeep. I don't envy you that.
I mean as if I gear more than whatever I choose to main.
Fair enough.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, why don't we have? What do we want to start with today? Is the first thing I should ask.
Let's start with just a couple of minutes, a couple of notes on just sort of the general changes to Melee DPS that we're going to have going into Endwalker, just so that we touch on those.
Not gearing multiple classes at the same time. That's fair. No, just responding to
so-
Tiller.
Hmm?
I was just responding to
So,
Tiller. Sorry.
So Feint is being changed.
It is.
Addle is also being changed. They're basically getting the same tweak to them. The way it works right now, Feint is an off-global role action that every Melee DPS has that essentially serves to lower the physical damage of attacks put out by an enemy by 10%. Addle does the same thing, but for magic damage. The way it's going to work in Endwalker now is Feint is going to reduce physical and magical damage. It's just that the physical reduction is going to be more potent. So you're still going to want to prioritize putting it on good physical damage targets. But if it's going to cost you a use of it, you may as well throw it out for something magical. It won't just be useless anymore, which I think is a good change.
100%. That is, yeah.
Because let's be honest, we've talked about things that are quote unquote good buttons on jobs, but the fight design in the game kind of renders them less so or renders them irrelevant. Fight design, at least the fight design that I'm familiar with, has made Feint more or less. It's not worthless, but its value compared to Addle is considerably lower because
Yeah.
its primary targets are they tend to be tank busters, and those
Yeah.
tend to be invulned.
Yeah. I'm trying to think on like physical raid wides, and they're so few and far between.
They
Um,
exist, but where do they exist in any meaningful content?
Yeah.
I don't think any raid wide in this tier was well,
No.
I take that back. I think E11, the spreads, I think were physical.
Which ones? The
Um,
Lightning?
spreads?
well, just the what is the mechanical? It's the spreads into either fire, lightning, or like that initial hit. I think was physical.
Oh,
Oh, the actual elemental break
elemental break.
cast.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was physical, but the damage that it put out was so minuscule that it wouldn't even break like sucker, I don't think. Like the purpose of that attack was if you overlapped it, you died because of the fizz vuln that it
Yeah.
put on you.
Yeah.
I think some of the raid wides in Delubrum are physical. I think the ones put out by the Queen's Knights, like Blood and Bone, I think those might be physical. But once you enter into a section of the game that has lost actions, the potency of feint becomes worthless.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely say the meta of find out however you need to structure your tanks pulling and keeping aggro to let them invuln as many tank busters as possible has kind of rendered feint a button that I don't even think all melee DPS have that on their bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As for other adjustments, your ranged attacks aren't going to break your combos anymore, which seems like a nice quality of life improvement.
It is, and it gives me hope that like if they end up forcing more disengages from a melee, you can still keep some semblance of uptime. That is what I'm hoping from it.
You
Wait,
will be able to keep some semblance of uptime.
I
think
mean,
I would
like,
need to look at it. Good.
I mean, like something like where you can't just like step out like further than max melee and then weave back in. I'm talking more things along the line of like E10S. When the dog stands up, it also does this huge AOE you have to be out of range for, and the timing for that to not lose uptime is super narrow.
Yep.
Just due to the distance you have to move. I'm talking things like that.
Right.
Just like giving them more design space for what they can do in fights.
There's some good to that, I would say. I think you're going to see certain jobs be able to take advantage of that much better than others.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Does Monk have a ranged attack?
no,
I didn't think so. I was reading over the changes today. I didn't see anything like that.
Monk does not have a ranged attack.
Hadouken.
So
They could use one, to be honest.
I used to joke that with shoulder tackle they were the ranged attack.
They used to have Howling Wind. I was not playing the game for that, so I don't know what that was. Kind of a ranged attack?
So
Okay.
Howling Wind, it was a line AoE they had off global. Which they're bringing back as like a 5 chakra line AoE that upgrades into the Hadouken they get later on.
So they can at least spend some off global resources to keep up some semblance of damage. But in terms of keeping your GCD rolling, like I look at Ninja, who can even keep generating their resource.
Yeah,
while they're out.
Ninja has the best time disengaging, just by virtue of like normally your
Raiton.
trick window you want to fit all your Raitons in that trick window.
Right.
But if you need to disengage, you can spend a Raiton you're normally saving up and not drift, and use that while disengaging and not drift trick attack.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, and we can probably jump into Ninja from there, because the only other general thing is that they're adjusting the potencies of actions to reflect the fact that magic weapons and physical weapons are going to have the same damage stat attached to it, but that's
just
there's no conversation to be had there. It's just math is changing. You will see other parts of the math change to reflect that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you talk about Ninja wanting to keep all of their Raitons in their trick window, but maybe they can use it outside for disengages. Isn't that why they gave them a gap closer off of it?
Yeah, that's the first thing. So I've been looking at a bunch of like, especially like ninja stuff has been the hot topic for melee DPS at least. Ninja and monk specifically, just
Yeah, I was gonna
of the
say
existing
like
classes, they have the most changes. Um, so from what I've read, like theory crafters have said, like pretty much per minute you're using 6 gap closers. Like you're using Rhyton like 3 times per minute on
oh,
average.
and what
And for
changes to
you,
Rhyton are there that make it a gap closer?
so Rhyton now will proc the existence of a new skill. It's level 90 capstone, I believe, called Forked Raiju, which will combo into another global cooldown called Fleeting Raiju. You have to use them back to back, which is where a lot of problems are. But they're just it's Chidori and Lightning Blade from Naruto for all the weebs out there. Shout out.
So
Um,
after you execute a Rhyton, you will get a gap closer, and then that gap closer will change to be another gap closer, despite the fact that you have closed the gap.
yes,
Mm.
it's it's weird. Because like you have to use the 2 gap closers back to back. I think you can like delay using the first one. But yeah,
Let me double check. Yes, Fleeting Raiju Ready is the status you need to activate that, and it lasts for 15 seconds.
Mm.
yeah. So you well, I think Fleeting Raiju is the second hit. So Forked Raiju is the
Oh, you're
first
right.
one, and I
Right,
think
that's
that's like 30
Rhyton.
seconds. Like use Rhyton, you have 30 seconds to use Forked Raiju, and I think that doesn't go away if you use another weapon skill.
No, it replaces your ninjutsu button.
Yes, I mean like if you use like Spinning Edge or something after casting Rhyton, you don't lose the Forked Raiju, is what I mean.
I believe you are correct.
Yeah. But if you use another weapon skill after using Forked Raiju, you lose Fleeting, which makes sense in the context of breaking combos. It's just really weird that they're both gap closers.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can... No, I honestly cannot see a fight design where you have to disengage Rhyton, gap close in, but immediately have to disengage again and gap close back in.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
so,
ads. I'm definitely thinking ads.
Dashing from ad to ad, I could see that.
Yeah, like ads you have to keep separate. Something along the lines of like, um, ad phase of E7S.
I guess it's just the timing of that would be very, very weird.
Yeah.
Unless you're like bouncing between for some reason.
Yeah.
I was thinking more maybe like Lakshmi EX during that ad phase might be a better one where you would actually dash between.
It's got a
Just-
decent range.
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
Yalm.
yeah, it's just
Yeah, I could
It-
see that with what's it called? Innocence EX2. Ad phase
Yeah.
Innocence.
so it can have its uses, but it's so niche that I almost feel like it being a gap closer doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's an added bonus that might occasionally come up. Sort of like it is occasionally useful that Rhyton will reset your cooldown for Shikuchi, despite you having 2 charges of it.
Yeah.
I will say, because on the topic of Rhyton going into these 2 extra weapon skills, the concept of like mudra or jutsu action or combos rather is an interesting one for them to have gone down for Endwalker, because they have another one, correct?
Yes. The other
The
one
wind one,
isn't so
right?
much a combo, so much as kind of a synergy type of thing, where if you drop Doton and then use their AoE moves. So I forget the first one, but I remember the name of the second
It's
step.
Death Blossom into Hake Mujinsatsu.
Yeah, so
We
every
even
use
more
of
weeb.
Hake Mujinsatsu will proc like another hit in Doton for some potency. So everything in Doton, when you use Hake Mujinsatsu, will take another hit from.
It'll just essentially take an extra tick.
No, just another attack will
Oh,
happen.
okay.
So
Is it like a
it's,
flat potency or?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's
With-
called Hollow
with
Nozuchi.
off.
Something's echoing.
Yeah, I'm hearing myself come through somebody's
That might
speakers.
be me because I don't have my headset on. Yes. Here, try again.
Try again. Okay. I don't hear
Speaking.
anything.
Yeah. Same.
Okay. But yeah, so that's Hollow Nozuchi, and it's basically if they're standing in Doton, you use Hakemujin Satsu, they get hit again. Kind of like how the Bunshin effect is added in on your weapon skills or something. It's just
Oh.
another hit.
When Hake is used as its combo action, which why would you use it any other way? It's 100 potency and then 50% drop off. How does it determine who the first enemy is? I wonder.
Probably what you're targeting.
In AoE, yeah, the first hit is always the one you target. If not, I think it's probably the closest one if you're not targeting anyone.
This is the longest range I've ever seen for an ability.
I think it's because it's just supposed to like, it's like if Doton every time you use Hakemujin Satsu did like shot spikes out of the ground to hit whatever's in it.
Right. But
So-
like, it's got a range of 100 yalms. You could drop Doton at the start of a dungeon, run as far as you can,
And proc it.
and I don't think you could escape the range of procking it, no matter how fast your little 5% extra speed
Yeah.
trait let you go.
Which I think is the point. It
Mhm.
was probably just an easier way of implementing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
What other changes has Ninja received? Let's talk about their Ninki a little bit, because they've gotten a couple of sideways sort of buffs to it as well. Their combo enders give more of it, I understand.
yes. So the combo, when you do a full combo now, so Spinning Edge, Gust Slash into Aeolian or Armor Crush, you get 20 Ninki. You get the first few steps give 5 each, and then the combo finishers give 10. But in Endwalker, the combo finishers will now give 15.
Okay.
Which that just means more Bavakakras
Mm-hmm.
pretty much, because that's the only thing that costs Ninki, or Hellfrog Medium if you're in AoE situation.
Right. No new gauge spenders this time around.
Yeah, they've just I feel like in general, like when it comes to a gauge spender, they're just like giving each class one thing that will spend a gauge in general, or like because Tenchi Jin used to cost gauge.
It did.
Oh, and then they kind of replaced that slot of the kit with Bunshin.
Yes. Yeah.
So they
God. Well, yeah, Stormblood Ninja. I'm trying to remember now. There was Tenchi Jin, Bavakakra, and then if both of those were on cooldown, you used Hellfrog Medium. So it wasn't just both of those cost gauge; they also had cooldowns.
right. You could not just spam them out as long as you had the gauge to spend on them.
Yeah.
Because I definitely feel like current Ninja gets a lot more Ninki than they used to, because it used to be tied to your auto attacks, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yes, and slower, and like some weapons have slower auto attacks, which would screw over your generation. It was fun.
Your best in slot was also determined by weapon speed.
It was
man.
funny because I remember in Omega, I was on Ninja. The crafted weapons had a slower auto attack speed than the tome or raid weapons. So like progging with the crafted weapon sucked.
We're not getting a good idea of what your output was going to be or what your rotation was going to look like. Ugh.
Yeah. So that was fun.
I could have sworn you were samurai for a little bit at least during that.
Yeah, I definitely swapped between the two because male and female pissed me off with trick attack,
Mm,
because it was like effectively half the party taking advantage of a party buff.
yeah.
So like I was like, I'm going to and there was a lot of movement, and Tenchi Jin still pisses me off to this day. So like I'm gonna switch to samurai.
I
For
feel
this
your
fight.
pain. I had to choose whether I wanted to use Chain Strat when Ifrit and Garuda were both out in 6. What is the one thing I'm forgetting? Oh, the change to Mesui that they're getting.
I mean it's still the same. Buffs Bavakakra by 100 potency. It's not a
Yeah,
bad thing. It's
I
good.
don't believe it does that now, correct? The
It does not.
Bavakakra? Okay.
It just I think it gives you it either gives you 40 or 50.
I believe it gives you 40 now. I think it's so they've buffed how much Ninki you're getting by 20% and increased the potency of the next
Does-
Bavakakra,
Does
which
Mug?
is nice.
I thought Mug gave 40 and Masui gave 50.
Does Mace give 50? I didn't say I played Ninja well. I just said I
don't
played it
remember.
better than the other ones.
Time for me to check.
Uh,
Let me see.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, Mesui as it is now, it's kind of. I've always thought of it as like a housekeeping button. It's unattractive to see that Suiton status just hanging there
Yeah.
after Tenchi Jin.
Okay, yeah, Macewee gives 50.
Meisui gives 50, Mug gives 40.
Yeah, so Macewee essentially gives a free Bavakakra usage.
So it may as well make it a bit stronger if that's all it's going to be.
Yeah, I feel like I wish they made it so it just gave you like a status that would allow you to use Bava for free. So it was less
Less frantic button pressing.
yeah, there's that way there's less going on because you always use Macewee under trick. And so like you use Macewee, you gain 50 Ninki, but you have so many other buttons to press. While also making sure like because you don't want to overcap
Right.
and everything and like it gets a little frantic. On top of the fact that Macewee is always combined with Tenchi Jin, so you're already like planting yourself there for that part. It's frantic. I kind of wish it just like gave you a free usage instead of granting you 15 Inky.
Well, you will now have one. I do want to ask you about this afterwards, specifically the question of what do you think the trick attack windows are going to look like in Endwalker. But you will have one fewer button to press next X-Pack than you do now because Assassinate is getting combined.
I would say it's looking like as long as Forked Raiju and Fleeting Raiju are a gain over just using your normal weapon skills, and this is due to the like potencies and the Ninki generation, especially because Armor Crush and Aeolian Edge now give 25 or 15 Ninki instead of 10. So if you want to fit those under tricks, so you could potentially get a Bava usage, that might come out ahead. I don't know the math, and we don't have final potencies, so that is something to consider. But I'd like to go into a lot of these thinking like, yes, you should be using these new attacking skills. You should be, with that assumption, trick windows pretty much going to be the same. There was one instance where in current Ninja where if you can pull off 2 Bava Kakras in your trick window, that is a gain over using Raiton in your trick window. And I can see that distinction just completely going away. Like,
yeah, I don't think that little bit of nuance is going to be around anymore.
Yeah,
I think it'll be replaced by something, but
I think it'll purely be replaced by just using Raiton and Trick always, and then getting off the Fork Raiju and Fleeting combo.
Yeah.
And then just moving on, just because they ideally they will be a big enough potency or whatever to just be like, yeah, you should just use these when they come. So trick windows generally, assuming everything else is a gain, less weapon skill, so less using your combos under trick and more using all these like ninjutsu combinations.
All your flashy fun buttons.
Yeah, so all your flashy fun buttons get thrown into this trick attack window, and I'm still kind of firmly in the delete trick team. I think it limits the job way too much.
I do appreciate how deep into Ninja we kind of got pretty much instantly, but I do kind of want to bring it back for just a quick second and just talk a little more about like kind of general things with Ninja, like especially for people that are kind of new to 14, the audience could be whatever the audience is that watches these videos, but let's say for myself, right, someone who hasn't played Ninja, what should I expect from the job, and what can I expect as a new person playing Ninja going into Endwalker? Between now and Endwalker, I guess.
Simplifying it down, I'd say it's more of the same concepts as in Shadowbringers,
which are
which are basically the same thing.
Yeah, like you get the pure basics. Macewee pairs with Tenchi Jin generally. Your trick window is the most important thing for your DPS.
What does
Still,
trick attack do?
uh, goddamn,
Take it
it's
down to a Sesame Street level.
Yeah, because
all right.
because I
Yeah,
wanna
no,
I wanna
I get
have
it. I
people
get it.
kind of entering the conversation, kind of understanding at least a
Yeah.
little bit of what we're talking about.
So Ninja's fun part, instead of like sending out a buff that everyone benefits from, they trick attack is a debuff on the monster that makes them take more damage. And it lasts like 15 seconds now, and I
I
think
believe
it
so.
still lasts 15 seconds in Endwalker.
Yep.
Mhm.
And you throw everything. All of Ninja's burst is thrown into that 15 seconds.
Not just Ninja's burst,
Well,
everyone's burst.
ideally everyone's line up, but if you're just
Yeah.
practicing Ninja on a dummy, you want to hit your big things under trick.
hmm
And you do try to align that no matter what your job you're doing, but not everyone has a massive job designed burst
And
every minute on the minute.
and yeah, and I think Yoshi P has also stated that Monk specifically is a lot like that too. More on Monk later, um, but yeah, not every job is going to line up, as you said, every minute. But
Yeah.
it's
They've
it's the
definitely made it better
goal
in
for
Endwalker
yeah.
with a lot of like 1 minute, 2 minute cooldowns for most classes. But yeah, Trick Attack was kind of what started the whole buff alignment meta the player base have created for themselves.
But if you're looking at sort of what to expect from Ninja, A, if you're looking to get into it and start practicing it before Endwalker comes out, or B, if you're looking to get into it once Endwalker drops, it is 15 seconds of insanely high action per minute with you just hitting a bunch of buttons that have no other purpose outside of being hit during trick, and 45 seconds of upkeep. Because ninjas, unlike say dragoons or monks, still have a personal buff whose upkeep they are responsible for, and we definitely should not leave this conversation without talking about Huton. But basically, you're spending 45 seconds keeping your GCD rolling, generating the resource we were talking about earlier called Ninki, which is responsible for just one of your off-global hit the monster, and keeping your Huton buff up, and just waiting with bated breath for your number of buttons pressed to triple as soon as that trick attack goes out.
Yeah, and Huton itself is just a speed buff. So on top of all the button pressing, if you want to keep your global cooldown running, it's shorter than other jobs. So
Yeah.
you have a button that you have something you want to keep rolling, and then you also have a bunch of buttons you want to press in between within that trick attack window.
Yeah. Cool.
So overall,
Now,
yeah.
how much damage would you expect to be doing as a ninja compared
We
to
have no
other
effing
jobs?
idea. Oh, compared to other jobs, they're
Like-
squashing the damages. We don't know.
I think right now Ninja sits comfortably, like, I want to say of the 4 melee DPS, I want to say it's third.
Third.
Mhm.
I think
With
think
Dragoon
Monk,
slightly behind, right?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
like Samurai is the top for all the melee when played optimally. I believe Monk is second, and then Ninja and Dragoon afterwards.
Like kind of give or
The
take.
competition
Yeah.
I believe the competition was tighter prior to Monk's sort of halfway rework a couple of patches ago.
Yeah.
But ever since that, Monk has been pretty decidedly above Ninja, not by a ton, but
Yeah.
it's above it.
Yeah.
Like it's not enough to be like, yeah, don't bother playing these jobs. That like Final Fantasy 14 will never like kick a job to the curb. And leave it
Well,
that way.
its players might. I recall stories I've heard about a certain Black Mage friend of mine who played Ninja in Eden's Gate and would get kicked from parties for being Ninja. But
Yeah, but that's
the story
that's
for another
expansion drop.
time.
That's expansion drop when, you know, nothing is certain yet, and Ninja was definitely reworked because of that. So,
Yeah.
like, yeah, the
Yeah. So, how do I put it? So if you're if so starting out as a ninja, right? Like, and a lot of this is just coming from me, kind of always having a bit of an interest in the job. Um, I put together like and 100% of it, like 100%. I did have a little interest in the job because I made a fucking sick ass glam for it. But like, um,
Always how
you
it
know, like
goes.
what do you focus on first, right? Like when you're first starting out, when you were first starting out playing ninja, right? Like what did you look for to just kind of have a baseline of like, if I do this, I'm doing all right.
Right.
And then from there, how did you build up to like become
Okay.
better at the job? Let's say, like, how do you
my two
optimize from there?
cents, for my 2 cents, you practice trick. Like until you can nail your 1 minute and trick, 1 minute and 2 minute trick sequence, there's nothing else you need to practice. You master that first, and then everything else is very straightforward.
Why
You
1 minute and 2 minute? What's the difference?
Uh,
you
it,
take that one, Sol.
the difference is pretty much just Tenchi Jin. So at 0, so your opener, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, you have Tenchi Jin and you use that under trick. Tenchi Jin is a 2-minute cooldown. So it's every other trick has Tenchi Jin, and then if you're not using Tenchi Jin, and so you essentially have 2 different trick windows, that you should learn how to do, and the difference is purely because of trick attack, or not trick, Tenchi Jin.
Okay.
Because what Tenchi Jin is packed into that 1 2 minute button is you execute 3 jutsu back to back in a very specific type of sequence.
Mm.
So it trying to fit your normal like 1 minute quote unquote trick attack buttons, you're not going to have enough space. You have to give TCJ the proper amount of space to execute all of its jutsu, the proper amount of space. Like we said, that's where Mesui kicks in, so you're getting a boatload of extra resource all of a sudden. It changes the shape of it enough that you really do need to have both sequences down.
Okay.
That's pretty much the only difference.
Yeah.
You're just
Like
taking a chunk of the weapon skills you would use in your 1-minute trick attack and just replacing that with the 3 ninjutsu that Tenchi Jin lets you use.
honestly, a chunk of that's going to be gone in Endwalker. I alluded to it earlier. You had a specific off global called Assassinate, which is not going away, but it's being replaced with a different ability. Basically, there are 2 buttons on your hotbar right now. One is Assassinate, and one is Dream Within a Dream. They're both off-global physical attacks. One of them has a much longer animation lock. The one with the animation lock is going to just straight up be replaced with Dream Within a Dream. So that frees up a spot. And they removed Ninja's 30-second dot in Endwalker called Shadow Fang. That button is simply gone. So
They're removing
that's
it again.
so that's where you're going to be finding room to do all of these Naruto-esque Chidori gap closers, even though you're standing right up the boss's ass, is because they're getting rid of Shadow Fang again.
God. Yeah. So yeah, Ninja, solid job, like they all are, but Ninja's, it's of the 4 existing jobs, it's my second favorite melee DPS to play.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about like 2 of the other new skills. Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure that we've I know we did it backwards, but
Yeah, I mean-
is that enough of the basics? Or
Yeah, I just yeah, it's I mean like partly for the audience, partly for myself. Like I'm an absolute just fucking smooth brain when it comes to ninja shit. So like
Yeah.
you know, as someone who's always been interested in the job, but like never really like confident enough to like just jump in and learn it. And you know, like why would I
Yeah.
play ninja over like say just playing more samurai, which is what I do, right?
No, I
Or
get that. It's
kind of a thing.
It's definitely hard for me to remember how the leveling curves though, because it's always one of the first jobs I level in an expansion.
Yeah.
Ninja's leveling experience is pretty awful, but that's a topic for another time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for advice on how to get into Ninja, the best advice I can give you is first get it to 80. I had Ninja at 80 when I actually decided to learn how to do it, and what I did was I went to Stone Sky Sea and just kept booting up dummies and kept doing like the first minute of the rotation until I had trick attack, and then getting into the next trick attack down, and everything else just kind of flowed naturally from there.
Yeah, like standard resources to learn, of course. Like there's the balance. You can go on YouTube. You can probably find someone showing the rotation and how they do it, stuff like that.
Pictures and banging music.
Yeah, always. And then, you know, I just do dummy sessions. Um I don't like go to some Sky Sea or anything. I just go on a dummy and I will just hit the dummy. I've
See,
definitely hit the dummy for like 10 minutes straight.
dummy sessions are great. The only reason I recommend Stone Sea Sky, Stone Sea, whatever it is
There's a metric for actually if you're doing well.
no, it's if you screw up and leave and then come back in, it immediately resets all your cooldowns.
Yo,
Because the
shows how
one
much I use that.
the one thing that is worth mentioning about Ninja, sort of a cautionary tale, is all those buttons you want to put into Trick, if those get out of Trick, there really isn't much of a way to force them back into Trick outside of some, just, I don't know, standing still for 20 seconds.
Outside of delaying trick, which
yeah,
nobody wants.
outside of doing some very unpleasant things to your rotation. So if you're going onto a dummy session just to learn, if you screw up the first trick, you could stay on that dummy for another 20 minutes. You're probably not getting a lot of meaningful practice, but being able to reset all of your cooldowns and just practice trick, I found to be very valuable.
Okay. That's no, that's fair.
Yep.
Uh,
And for the other people that don't know how to get trick attack, it's a specific combination of what is it? 3 spells? Three stickers?
Three
Three
it is a
jutsu?
3 mudra. Yeah, so 3 hand signs
Yeah.
essentially.
You want the water one because it gives you a status that allows you to trick attack once every minute.
Yeah.
It's Tenshi Jin. It is the first one you get, followed by the second one you get, followed by the third one you get. Or at least that's the combo I've always used. There's 2 combos for every
Well,
action, I believe.
An easier way to remember it that I like to do is it's a 3-step ninjutsu that ends on Jin. So the
True.
last one you press in however long the sequence you're pressing is the one that decides what ninjutsu you cast.
That's fair. I remember it as down, back, forward because I play on controller.
I mean, I do too, and I remember it as square X circle. So
Oh, I'm square triangle circle. X is my jutsu. Controller
ninjutsu's on
boy.
triangle.
Yeah.
Find what works for you. How long have we been talking about Ninja?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay,
should.
we
move on.
should- Well, we want to move on, but we
Well-
have
Too-
to at
too much
least talk about one of the buttons they're getting.
Yeah, so there's 2 other buttons we've neglected for Ninja that they're getting. One is called Huraijin, and the other is Phantom Kamaitachi.
Let's do Phantom Kamaitachi because it's easy.
Let's explain what they are in English too, because I have no idea what the fuck any of that meant.
Well,
I'm sorry, that's what they're
Huraijin-
called.
Huraijin is hurricane art. I don't know, maybe HUR is how hurricane starts, and the other one is Phantom Wind Weasel. Are you happy now?
I hate this so much.
I hate you too. So Phantom Kamaitachi, you're getting that at 82. And as I understand it, that's basically an extra button you get to tack on to your level 80 capstone ability called Bunshin. So that's just going to be an extra little AoE button that you're going to get to hit every 2 minutes.
Yeah, well,
Is that the-
Bunshin now 2 minutes?
Is it 2 minutes? Where is Bunshin on this thing? It might actually
I
be
mean,
90 seconds.
Bunshin base is 90 seconds. I just didn't know
Bunshin
if
is
they were
90
changing it.
seconds.
But
No, they're not.
what Brad's saying is that when you use Bunshin and Endwalker, you will get something else that allows you to use Phantom Kamaitachi once. And it's just a move. It expends a stack of Bunshin. You throw a clone, and it explodes in a burst of wind.
You will get a little light up button
Yes.
for one of the many buttons that you try to get under trick as often as you can, but 90 seconds being what it is.
Yes.
Uh,
So it's there. It's nice. It's not like a finisher in Bunshin or anything. No. Or
it's
like
not your capstone ability or anything.
no, it's a bonus. And right now it's arguable if it's actually worth using. But
We'll find
that's
out.
another that's another
Potencies
discussion.
aren't final.
We'll find out in 3
yeah.
weeks.
So
God,
what is Horizon all about?
it's just a button they gave you that automatically gives you Huton, but it's like it should stay super weak, so it's not like the way you do it. You apply Huton.
So I've talked to you about this, and you've talked to me about this, and I'm sure you've been reading on forums as well. As near as I can tell, the only use for this is the boss is about to jump away. I see him casting the thing that's going to make him jump away. I need more time on Huton, but I don't have enough GCDs to get to Armor Crush. Like, I've just hit Gust Slash. I'm going to get one more weapon skill, and then he's going to leave. I'll hit Horizon.
yeah, or I died and need Huton back.
Okay.
Like, those are pretty much what it's for. If for some reason they up the potency, I could see a world where you just replace the Armor Crush combo with it, but I don't see them doing that.
Yeah, I really do think it. I feel like Monk used to have a button like this. But Monk has changed so many times, and I've paid so little attention to it over the years. Didn't they have a button, like a weapon skill you could hit that would extend your Greased Lightning duration up to the maximum?
Six-sided star.
Is that
A
what that does?
Natman.
Is that
Wait.
what Six-Sided Star does? I don't remember.
Tiller, if you're still here, can you let me know? Can you let us know?
I think so.
I know a Notman is an off global that essentially freezes it, and it is intended to be used when the boss is non-targetable, like Samurai's Meditation.
So there are a couple of ways you can extend Grease Lightning. Well, you could extend Grease Lightning before, right? It was like a Notman and Six-Sided Star, right? Let's see what he says.
Like, I want to say that's true, but like, again, yeah, Monk isn't something I haven't hugely dabbled in.
Yeah.
I'm at least decently familiar with what Monk is going to look like in Endwalker, because that was my job coming into this show.
A Notman, yeah. And Six-Sided.
okay.
Okay, yeah.
It definitely gives me shades of what I remember Six-Sided Star being at some point.
I think Earth's reply. Actually, no.
Which is just, well, yeah,
Its
no.
reply just nullified positional requirements.
It used to do something different.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Christ, Monk
Trying
has
to
so
think.
many changes.
Yeah, no, it's yeah.
It might have. Okay.
But
Can't
yeah,
remember.
so-
No worries, Taylor. I appreciate you.
So yeah, Huraijin, it's a niche skill, but I wouldn't call it a bad skill.
No.
It makes ninja recovery so much nicer if you mess up. Just by virtue of you won't have to use a ninjutsu usage to put Huton on, because that takes a while.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll make ninja openers where they don't wait for you to put on Huton.
It'll make pugs so much nicer.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm willing to accept Horizon as the pug button.
Okay.
But I
Necklace
I don't
checking on
think-
Earth's reply. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think Huraijin will really have a place in a perfect rotation without like a potency buff, which I don't.
It would need to be pretty significant.
Yeah.
God help you if you've ever fucked up so hard that you feel that you have to hit Horizon under trick.
Yeah. It essentially would have to be 3 Huraijin, or it would have to be able to offset the cost of delaying using an Armor Crush.
We don't
combo.
think so. Okay, got you, Tiller.
Delaying Armor Crush and delaying your next Baba Kakra.
Okay.
Yes, because
So-
yeah, the Ninki attachment.
Before we start talking more about Ninja and turning this into a Ninja podcast, I do
I'm
feel
I'm
like
pretty much done.
we should
We're
move
good to
on,
move on.
Yeah.
because I don't want to be here for 4 hours.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
It-
sorry.
no,
Are we
like-
keeping you?
my one.
I
word
mean,
going
no,
into
see,
this
like,
was oh man,
yeah.
I can go for hours.
Yeah, no,
Now
it's
let's
like
turn him
it's
into a
like
hypocrite.
how do I put it? Like, I knew, especially because we have very specific jobs we like to focus on. It'd be like, we could spend a decent bit of time on like specifically like
Yeah, no, we can move.
Ninja, and Ninja especially because I just know how the both of you operate. And so I was like, okay, well, we'll probably try and bring it up later. And then like suddenly, by the way, let's talk about ninja now. And now
Yeah,
it's fucking
it
like
was a
40
to be
minutes later.
fair, it was a very good segue into
I
talking
Yeah.
ninja because we
Yeah.
did
I
do a
oh
little
no,
bit.
I was always planning to put ninja first because I knew how
Yeah,
long it could go and it would let us better gauge how long to spend on other jobs. Speaking
yeah.
of other jobs, since you're tired of hearing us talk, let's move on to something a little bit lighter. Let's talk about samurai.
Ah,
Samurai.
Shoha 2 is the funniest thing. I I like it.
Shohara? Is
Funny.
that how they're gonna? Is that what they're gonna call it in Japan? Shohara.
Shohara. Oh my god. That would be hilarious. I
It's
wish they
funny.
would.
Yeah, it's
But
like not
I
a
think
spell, and it's also not. It doesn't have a cast time. So like,
why
why?
not?
You know,
Exactly.
I
Shoha's
was
so good. Why is
Show
there Shoha 2? It's just this Shoha 2 is just like, why do you exist? Why are
Shoha
you a
Part
separate
Two,
button?
Electric
frankly,
Boogaloo.
I was looking at everything that Samurai is getting, and I started to suspect that the healer team was responsible for designing their Endwalker updates because I see a lot of little percentage increases, new charges, and something AoE got 2 added to the end.
To be
Yeah.
fair, the Tsubame Gaeshi, the
Wait,
like,
let's wait. Hold on.
dude, I'm
I know,
going to say the Japanese names for all of
No,
these.
no.
Yeah, no.
I know. Shoha right
We
now is
are
not AoE.
100% jumping into like big changes before, but I do want to again just kind of bring it back to just what is a samurai and what do they do before we start talking about this stuff.
All right,
So
so
Samurai is the classic combo big hit job. It is the perfect melee job for people who just want to get dance partner, hit their flashing buttons, and then wonder why the red mage is higher than them on the aggro list.
oh
I
my god,
feel so called out, and I'm so angry.
I'd say, cut like a semi-serious answer now. It's I would consider like base samurai going in as probably the second best melee to just if you're just starting with the melee roll. If you haven't like done any melee DPS roll, I think samurai is a good second starting point.
I
It's
would agree with that. Yeah.
it's very if this were like Stormblood Samurai when it first came out, I would say it's the best one to start. Um,
I see what you
fair.
mean, Tiller.
It's
Yeah.
very straightforward what you need to do with Samurai. So for that, as Tiller's saying, I think it would be good. It's
Mm.
just it's just if you want to be serious about it, it is not my first choice I would recommend to people. And by serious, I mean like if you want to actually sit down, learn the basics,
Uh,
and aim to get better.
I would call it easy to learn, hard to master. Probably hard to optimize, actually, more than hard to master. Um,
Yes.
and yeah, I agree with the sentiment that Tiller has personally, mostly because I just don't play Dragoon. Um,
That's fair.
which we'll get to Dragoon soon, promise. But yeah, Samurai. It's basically you just some jobs have utility, some jobs don't. Samurai doesn't have utility at all,
Just
and they
hit
sacrifice
harder and
utility.
hit harder.
Yeah, you just do a fuck ton of damage as much as possible, and then um, just do more damage in between doing more damage.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think right now speed samurai is the best, and what that means for samurai is that um, you basically want
You go fast.
you just go fast, yeah, and you only weave in, I believe, just like one skill between GCDs because it's almost too
Yeah.
fast to be able to weave it anything else other than that. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah. Wait, was it was it fast samurai or was it slow samurai? I don't remember. I don't remember what's best in slow right now.
remember.
But anyways, the hard to optimize part of it is that the biggest hit that samurai has is it has a cast time to it, and um, you have to be even if it's a short cast time, you still have to be standing still in order to get that cast time off. Um, and so whenever you do your big hit, you want to be in a place where you know you're not going to get hit or moving, or where like you have to move so that you don't die, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's also timings with your buffs and everything like that. You buff yourself, you do you do big damage and stuff like that. 72 hardest hitting abilities are
He's not
instacasts.
wrong.
You're not wrong, but like those are also once every minute versus Samurai's big hitting like kind of filler combo. Um, you have
Yeah.
to be sitting to cast that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know it's Hiller. It's okay.
So yeah, Samurai. Yeah, it's one of the ones I would recommend. It is not my first choice to recommend to people new to the melee role, but it's up there.
Its core, the core foundation of its kit is definitely more approachable than, say, for example,
Ninja.
memorizing your trick attack burst windows.
Yeah.
Because with Samurai, you are rotating through
You
three,
rotate your combos.
you're rotating
Yeah.
through 3 core weapon skill combos that start from the same point and then branch out to 3 different endpoints.
Yep.
You're maintaining 2 separate buffs, which are getting slight tweaks in Endwalker, but maintaining them, there is no real thought to it. You're constantly going to be refreshing them well before their duration,
Mhm.
Yep.
and at the end of each combo, you're getting one of your stickers, and then you cash your stickers in for different abilities.
Yep.
That
It's
would be
not
the big cast
combination.
time
And
hit you're talking about.
yeah,
Yes.
and I would say, especially because Ninja has so many different abilities that come out of the same 3 buttons that like compared to Ninja, Samurai is pretty trivial in terms of um, learning what each thing does. I would say
Yes.
it's like the amount of stickers versus the combination of stickers in what order.
yeah.
It also helps that it does not actually matter which stickers you have. The number of stickers is the only defining feature.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So
No.
yeah, then kind of diving more into Samurai as you level it, you will gain access to a resource called Kenki,
Mhm.
which is pretty much similar to the Ninki we've already talked about. Um,
It has a
Yep.
Hellfrog medium equivalent, a single target, and an AoE spender.
Yep.
Mhm.
And then you have the big spender on a cooldown, which costs 50.
Yep, 50 for the single target and the AoE version.
Yep. So you have those
Um,
big hits that you want to make sure you can use on time, but then you have the smaller ones you use under buff windows / you don't want to overcap.
Mhm.
And then there's the most important one, which is that Shinten? No,
Yeah.
Shinten's the stabby stab one. Kaiten is the one I'm thinking of, which
Kaiten
is
thin one.
you basically want to spend a little bit of Kenki to prime your next sticker spender every time
sorry,
you
I'm
use it
thinking
Buffs
210.
the potency.
Yeah,
by
Kaiten is
50%. It is a significant damage increase and should be used every time your stickers are going out.
Yep.
Mhm.
And then they also have a skill called Meikyo Shisui, which allows you to essentially use your combo
Combo.
finishers in any order. You don't have to combo them. Or not necessarily just your combo finishers,
Any
but
part of
you
your combo.
generally, yeah, it removes combo requirements for your next 3 global cooldowns you use.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I believe, yes, it's worth noting since you bring up Mekio. Mekio is getting 2 changes in Endwalker. It is getting a second charge,
Mhm.
which, as for how that's going to be used in the rotation, I leave that up to people who know Samurai better than I do. And the other element is whenever you hit one of the combo finishers under Mekio, it will give you the corresponding buff. So if you hit the button Gecko, it will give you the damage up self buff. If you hit Kasha, it will give you the speed up self buff.
Oh, I missed that.
But only while you're doing it under Meikyo. So it truly does allow you to skip to the end of the line for your weapon skill combos, even at the beginning of a fight.
I can already see where it gets real fucky with that.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
the opener is gonna be wild.
I already have an opener in mind, but I'm not gonna
Yeah,
get too far
I
into
mean,
it.
in general, it's like get your dot up and then use Midare twice in a row, like immediately. That is 7 GCD, 7, 8. That is 8 GCDs, two Midares right after getting your dot up.
Mhm.
just as a general, like these are how openers go. But
Yeah.
I can see a world where you dot it before you put your dot up.
oh, there is actually an opener where you midare before you put your dot up. Like that actually does currently exist. So
Yeah.
That might gain dominance
All
then,
right.
since you'll
See
be
you in a
able to
bit,
put your
Tiller.
buffs up.
yeah, I can see that happening too. It remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But
I need to step away for about 90 seconds,
No worries.
or one Bunshin's length, but you lads
Oh,
continue on without me.
Yeah. Yeah. We can talk about samurai for a bit.
yeah,
Um.
and then
You talk about the capstone.
Yeah.
oh the new well let's hold off on the capstone yet because we still let's build up to that still.
Yeah.
So they also have Iki Shoten, which just gives you 50 Kenki.
Yeah.
It's good. It's useful
You use that as part
on
of your
cooldown.
rotation on cooldown. Um.
Yeah.
And
And then there's Tsubame Gaeshi, which in English is Swallow Return.
the remix to Ignition.
Right. It's any EI jutsu, so any, as Brad was mentioning, sticker spender.
Yeah.
You repeat it. That's all Tsubame Gaeshi is. It's
Mhm.
just you press it and you repeat.
Yep.
It currently has a 1 minute cooldown and is what limits the samurai rotations to what exists.
Mhm.
Just because you want to use it on time. It's just how it works.
It's definitely at least it makes the rotation slightly more strict, which is good, especially for people that are starting out, kind of learning how to optimize for melee.
Mhm.
I definitely appreciated it when I was first starting to really optimize samurai
And to
and
really
get
just
pretty okay at
be
it.
like, hey, here's like the 1 minute mark where buffs are going to be happening. Let's prepare. Yeah, I can definitely see how it'd be good for that. As someone who spent a lot of time learning Stormblood Samurai, I personally don't like the skill.
Hmm.
But again, that's just because in Stormblood Samurai was a lot more, was less strict, essentially.
Yeah, there was a very little difference in damage between going as fast as you can as a samurai versus going as slow as you can and just getting bigger hits.
Yeah,
Lots of big hits, lots of smaller big hits versus less hits, but kind of relying on RNGs to take the wheel
yeah.
and
It was essentially
slap bosses
Samurai
away.
in Stormblood was death by 1,000 cuts or hit you like 3 times. Not to that like extent, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
the main difference between the playstyles back then, and that's just because of Tsubame Gaeshi, um, that got rid of a lot of that.
It not necessarily got rid of it, but like it definitely pushed it
Narrowed
to
the
a lesser
scope.
extent. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. It narrowed the scope of like the difference in playstyle.
Yeah.
And with that, we'll segue into just like
Changes.
here's new things. So before the AoE combo for Samurai, just kind of like it only gave you only had options to get two of the 3 stickers.
Which is all you ever
Well,
really needed if you're ever doing AoE, but
yeah, AoE just needed 2, so you're like, yay, cool. They're getting a third AoE one that allows you to get the 3rd sticker. Cool. I don't see a point of it, if I'm being honest.
same.
I would say that it's extremely niche. I can invent places where you might conceivably use it. Let's say you're winding down a dungeon pack about to head into the boss. You could go in with 3 stickers.
Yeah, like the way, because that new AoE combo will have a higher potency, you essentially use the first 2, and then you use that, and the AoE combo are 2-step combos.
Yeah.
So you will use like the buttons you will press are essentially 1 2 1 3. You will spend those 2 stickers, and now with a third one, you can press like 1 2 1 4, spend them, 1 3 1 4, spend them, and then just kind of alternate.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of it along the lines of like if you wanted to use it for to just get a lot of Kenki just through Hagakure
Yes, that it would actually like work
and
better with Hagaku
yeah,
as well.
and so like you'd sacrifice being able to do your AOE two sticker kind of turn in favor of
More
getting
spammable.
more spam, yeah, more in between spinny spins,
Yeah.
basically.
So
Off global spinny spins. Yeah, there we go.
yeah. So like yeah, the new ability, it's called Kyosetsu. It's cool and all.
Definitely not going to be seeing a lot of usage in raid unless we have a shit ton of like AOE instances,
yeah,
which
which I
I
would not
doubt.
expect.
we haven't been trending towards any of that for the past two X packs. So I would not be surprised if nothing about that changed.
Yeah, Kyosetsu, as far as we know and as far as we can assume, it's purely a dungeon thing.
Toy.
That's all it is. It's nice. I don't feel strongly about it either way, but I lean towards why.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because it was something that they could put in. They
Yep.
saw that your AOE could never get you a third sticker. They said, "Hey, why not? We need to fill up
Yeah, it's
these level
something.
up abilities."
It's the same thing with the other new ability we mentioned at the beginning of this segment, Shoha 2.
Mm-hmm.
So the original Shoha was a off global you could use for every three EI Jutsu sticker spenders that you cast. Um, yeah, it was just a nice button you pressed, has a really cool animation. And then Shoha 2, instead of, being a nice upgrade, which is what I hoped it was, is just a separate button where that you would use again in AoE situations. So
Yep.
mostly dungeons. It's functionally the same. Instead of good damage on one target, it is decent damage on multiple.
It is almost literally the same treatment given to the Hisatsu Guren and Hisatsu Sene abilities, which are Kenki spenders. They just said, "All right, you've had one type of Kenki spender. Then at level 72, they gave you, all right, here's your single target Kenki spender. You have had a single target meditation stack spender. Now you need an AOE one. It's completing a missing portion of their kit
Mhm.
for dungeons.
in a way that I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, just because like that's button bloat. Um,
It is, and Samurai has always had a bit of an issue with that.
yeah, like when I was looking at my bars, I was like, I'm I'm going to have to move with the way I like to organize my bars. I'm probably going to move the limit break button somewhere else. That's just me. Um, just because like AOE is so limited, I like them all on like one set of like controller half bars.
Hmm?
And with how I organize, I'm just like I'm gonna have to just move limit break somewhere else. It's an unnecessary change or an unnecessary button, I think.
You may as well just set yourself up with a single target set of hotbars and or a dungeon set of hotbars and a raid set of hotbars and call it a day. Trim out a lot of the bloat that way, I would think.
Yeah, but it exists. It's cool. Whatever.
Mm-hmm. We do get two buttons removed, by the way.
Is it going away?
So there's the
Samurai
change
losing?
to the fuck is the actual ability named? Um, Third Eye. Third Eye gets
Oh,
changed
right.
so that you don't get Merciful Eyes or Hisatsu Seigan anymore.
Right. We are losing those two.
Although it does sound like Samurai are actually going to hit Third Eye more reliably now.
Yep.
Yes,
Because
it-
instead of that, it gives you Tenkenki. Instead of having the ability to choose between a damaging ability
Or a heal.
or heal,
I
one
mean-
of which costs you Kenki, you
Yeah.
just get 10 Kenki just flat. And
Yeah.
then which does free up two buttons, but you're replacing those two buttons with other buttons like pretty instantly. So
Yeah.
it's not too much
it's
of
something.
it's kind of quality of life.
Yeah.
I guess if your quality of life ends up exactly the same as when you left it.
Yeah,
Just like Trick.
it's okay. I don't know. The Tenkenki gain is nice on using it. One of the abilities we're losing, Seigan, Hisatsu Seigan, cost 15 Kenki, and was technically a gain over using Shinten.
It was just
Um,
really fucking annoying to use.
it's just super niche. So just giving us Tengenki instead. Uh,
Makes the decision making easier.
yeah. Well, I mean,
It's going to increase the amount of damage dealt by like the middle and higher middle parts of the bell curve by
Mhm.
a bit.
yeah. So it's good. It's there. I'm not complaining about it.
Yeah, button load's still
Uh,
going to be a thing though. You're getting too many new buttons and not enough old buttons are getting
yeah.
removed or
Also
changed in a
depending
way
on
that make it easier.
yeah, how you organize your bars and stuff. Especially as controller players, there's definitely a method to it that makes things easier.
I think the three of us have very different ways that we organize our bars, and I think I have the most cursed way, but
I
that's just
mean,
me.
my method I was speaking to go super general is I keep off globals on the D-pad and global cooldowns on the face buttons.
Yeah, we can talk about controller stuff probably for another
I was
stream.
told I was talking too much about Ninja, so I'm not going to say word one about my controller setup.
Yeah,
That's fine. All
like
right.
we'll
All
talk
right.
about it later.
Did
Samurai
you?
Capstone.
I was about to say,
Samurais,
did you talk about
we
Namakiri
did
while I was
not.
gone?
We were
Okay.
waiting
We
for
did
you
not. We've just kind
specifically
of
so we could talk about
built
it.
up to it.
Yeah.
So very nice of you. So, Samurai has for a while had a button called Iki Shoten, which a number of jobs have a button like this. It's a free off global where you hit it and you get a handful of your resource. In Samurai's case, Tenki. Now they are adding an additional effect to it. You will have a new off global light up. Actually, no, it is a global cooldown because it has the cast time just like the Aijutsus. But after you hit that button, you'll gain access to a weapon skill called Ogi Namakiri, which is a conal AoE that deals 800 potency to the first enemy. Potency is not final. And 75% less for all remaining enemies. So tremendous AoE drop off.
Yeah.
And
If you
Welcome
watch
back, Tiller.
if you watch the job action trailer, it's the big like charge into the shing move that they did at the very end.
Sorry, can you say
Very
that again?
flashy. It's the move if you watch the job action trailer that the
Oh,
samurai uses at the very end.
I was gonna try and get you to say the sound effect again.
Oh,
no, he was too smart.
shing!
He was not too smart for you.
I thought about it. But
And then
also, I
as
should have gone like an octave higher or something. But
just really blow out the headsets.
Right.
And then after you do Ogi Namikiri, that button will change to be Kaishi Namikiri, which is another conal AoE, only this one is 1200 potency, and then same 75% drop off for all remaining enemies.
Mm-hmm. I
What
think.
this. Go ahead.
Did we talk about how it gets triggered already?
Yes, with
Yeah.
with Iki Shoten.
Okay. And that's another difference between Samurai Now and Samurai in Endwalker is that Tsubame Gaeshi used to give you stacks of meditation, which will no longer be the case in Endwalker.
Right.
So you have to build up the 3 stacks of meditation off of
These
your
abilities.
your sticker spenders basically.
This ability will also grant a stack of meditation. They
Doesn't-
are
like-
moving that ability, that trait over to this.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
And that's what I was about to say is Samurai right now has sticker spender, and then after you used it, Tsubame lights up with a new, more potent version of the sticker spender.
It's actually like the exact same potency as if you use Kaiten on
Right.
it beforehand. So
Um,
technically, it should be the same when you use it. The technicality, though, go on.
The technicality being, what this is, or at least how I read it, is we wanted to give you a 4th sticker, but couldn't figure out how that was going to work. So
God,
we gave you a separate Ayajutsu button that only does one Ayajutsu, and a separate Tsubame button that only combos off of this. That's
the
quite
difference-
literally what this is.
What's really funny about Kaishi Namikiri, as from what I've seen, is it's treated as an off global.
It is. It's an ability.
Yeah, Tsubame itself is another GCD, so that's
Right,
one
okay.
big difference about it.
It does actually have a slight difference in that case.
Yeah, so it's there's like when you use an EI jutsu, there's like enough weave space for one off global. If your ping is good enough, it's still definitely a ping thing. And this Kaishi Namikiri will be that after you used Ogi Namikiri.
It'll just slot right into it.
Yep.
Pray your ping is good enough.
Yeah. which is a game issue. But
Yeah.
yeah, so you will always use Ogi into Kaishi every time you hit Iki Shoten. It's just how it works.
Yep.
Uh, yeah,
I
nice
think
big hits. Class does big hits, gets more big hits.
it
Can
is
make
definitely getting big, hard-hitting, loud buttons.
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't count the job action trailer as anything, any sort of indication that that's what it's going to sound like in game.
yeah,
If
that is
Samurai
not
suddenly
like
becomes quiet, I will be shocked.
God, Mitara is so loud
I mean,
at times.
yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
been tuned since, but like I remember Stormblood launch. I
think there might-
remember Stormblood launch.
I think there might be a samurai in here somewhere. Just cut to the sound of a raccoon just trashing your pots and pans.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go ahead and
Anyways.
move on.
Shall we hit up the other striking job, or did you
Yeah.
have another idea in mind?
Let's hop into Monk because then we could talk about Dragoon and then Reaper.
Yeah,
And it's kind of
I wanted
last.
change the
last.
yeah,
I oh. All right.
Reaper last is the only thing that makes sense. So
yeah.
monk. Let's
A
not.
Nobman exists.
I wonder
So,
if we
alright.
can get Tiller to come in and talk about Monk.
Maybe if I say enough inflammatory things, he'll just hop in by force.
I already took him off the podcast role, but I can add him because
If he's- yeah,
you're the one that knows the most about Monk aside from probably Nox. So
I know.
I play Sam and Dancer. Fucking.
I mean that's fair. Monk.
All right, fine.
Yeah, monk changes are. It's a good step. It's a good step in the right direction. I can't say if they're what people want or if what they don't want. It's
I've seen it. It's not quite a 50-50 split. I would say more people are concerned than thrilled. But I think for the majority of it, it's a wait and see kind of approach. Actually,
Yeah.
see how the job plays once we have hands on it.
yeah.
So
Before we get
let's
ahead of
yeah.
ourselves again. Oh, if you were about to do it.
Yeah.
If you're a fresh-faced person hopping into AORZ for the first time, and the only thing you know is you want to play a melee DPS,
And
what's
you want to
monk
punch
all-
things.
what's Monk all about?
Monk is-
using your body as a weapon.
And speed,
Yeah. So
at least right now.
yeah, no, it's still the fastest melee DPS. It is faster than Ninja. Ninja's Huton gives you like a 2.11 GCD, I think, whereas Monk firmly sets you at like 2 seconds.
Ah,
So it Monk Ninja has like a tiny window you can double weave. It's super tight, but I think you can do it if you need to. Monk is just purely single weaves.
I feel like melee DPS, now that I think about it, is just becoming get your stickers and then spend your stickers.
yeah.
I think,
It's-
yeah.
It's a very straightforward approach to job design that can be fairly easily done.
Yeah.
And as more jobs come out, like it's probably just the easiest way to make the game.
Yeah.
That's not how
Um,
Reaper works.
but-
Reaper is get your stickers and spend them to get different stickers.
Yeah, no,
But
Reaper is about.
we're gonna get ahead of ourselves. Let's
we'll
not
get
let's
there.
not get there yet.
But yeah, so Monk, it used to be when it first came out, it was you gain these stacks called Grease Lightning, which would make you go faster and make you hit harder, and you want to maintain those as much as you can. That was the bare basics of it. The job changed very little
Until
until this expansion, actually,
like not even just this expansion, like
middle of this expansion.
middle of this expansion, I think
So,
was the most
middle of
drastic
this
change.
expansion, they actually got rid of that Grease Lightning mechanic and just built it in. So now you're by default you're fast and you hit harder. That's just part of being a monk now. And they decided to lean into something they introduced in Heaven's Word called chakras, which are just you build up 5 orbs and then you can spend it. So that's what they've chosen to lean into with the monk stuff now. Coming into Endwalker, is we're going to take this chakra
Substantially more
system
expanded.
and we're going to do more stuff concerning chakras. And I'd say the system they introduced for it, Blitz, I'd say it's a good system.
It's
Um,
definitely different, and it's definitely a breath of fresh air, which I believe Monk really needed.
yeah, it's Monk is still virtually the same. It was fast, positional heavy, which any melee main would tell you is something that makes melee is positionals, which you either do more damage with certain
Hmm.
abilities,
Same Tiller,
hitting
same.
from hitting from the rear or hitting from the side. Depending on the ability, they'll do more damage. It was just a fun optimization thing that made it so you didn't stand in one place next to the boss and just keep hitting things.
Mhm.
There was movement. It feels good. I love positionals. Um, but in
Yeah.
Endwalker, some of them are going away for Monk,
Yep.
which I'm not a fan of. Um, it doesn't. It's yeah.
Yeah. How do I put
But
it?
anyway,
Yeah, and just in terms of just overall damage, we've said it before. Monk does slightly less damage than Samurai, and that's because it has ever so slightly more utility than Samurai has with Mantra. I think that increases healing done by your party,
hmm
um, and
and Brotherhood, which is just a party-wide DPS buff.
mhm. So because of that, they've tuned Monk's numbers down at just enough so that it doesn't do as much damage as a Samurai, but still puts up very very respectable numbers.
Yeah.
Just overall,
What it needs to not be an auto include, basically.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, just kind of to reference Tiller talking about Blitz, Blitz is basically Monk's new thing that will interact with with chakras. Not
It's the
necessarily
Monk stickers.
yeah, not necessarily its existing chakra system, which is just a very obfuscated builder spender. But um, so the Blitz system is kind of let's to dial it back a bit. Instead of having traditional combos, Monk rotates through different forms. Um, Oppo Oppo form, Coral form, and then wait no, fuck,
I
I
got you.
forget.
Give me a second.
It's Oppo, Oppo, Raptor, and Coral form.
Raptor is the one I'm forgetting.
Okay. Well, I swapped
Um,
for nothing. No worries.
so yeah, it will rotate through these two forms, and then in a single target situation, each form has two different GCDs you could use. You had the option to use. Um,
I've always thought of
in
it as like 1 in A, 2 in B, 3 in C.
Yeah, I thought of it as one has an effect attached and one is just damage.
Mhm.
Um, so in Oppo Oppo form, you have Dragon Kick and Boot Shine. Dragon Kick,
Buffs
when
your
you
boot
use
shine.
it, buffs your next Boot Shine. Raptor form has Twin Snakes and True Strike. Twin Snakes gives you a self damage buff that is your upkeep, and then um, Coral form gives you access to Demolish or Snap Punch, and Demolish applies a dot that you upkeep. So knowing those, the new thing they're adding, the Blitz system, is you build up each form will give you a different type of chakra. So when you hit the skill perfect balance, which lets you use any global cooldown regardless of the form. So perfect balance will let you hit 3 of those. Based off the combination of forms that you have, you can unlock a different attack. It's very similar to the ninjutsu system or the samurai's
Kinky? No,
sticker
Sen.
system.
Sen. There we go. Yeah.
The sen system, which we've been calling stickers. So
Right.
Yeah.
You hit perfect balance and you will enter the sticker gaining mode, if you want to think of it that way.
And so like if you use just one type of if you gain one type of beast chakra for all 3 hits, you will use one you gain access to one skill that will open up a lunar chakra. If you
They're
you
naughty.
find naughty whatever, It's a lunar
I'm
nod.
sorry, you're obsessed with the weeaboo words, but you won't respect the whatever language that comes from.
Anyway,
Yeah,
if there are two different beast chakra types you gained, you will use it will open either a lunar or solar depending on which one you do not have open. And then if you use 3 different types, it will open up solar. And then if you have both lunar and solar open and you use 3 different types, you will use your strong move. The strongest single hitting move in your arsenal. So the monk gameplay has changed to from using perfect balance as a find your biggest potency stuff and spam it to build up these chakras correctly. So when you use your third perfect balance, you can use your giant hitting hit, which it mixes up the gameplay. Perfect balance is still a means to do your hard hitting things, but in a way that's much more interesting than just than what it is now.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is just a feeling I have, but I'm not really experienced enough with either job to be able to say for sure. I was reading over that stuff, and it made it seem to me like new monk is going to be as rigid as current summoner. Between making sure that you are always hitting perfect balance on cooldown, making sure that you're always hitting the right sequence for that perfect balance to achieve the right types of beast chakra, the right types of nadi to make sure that you're lining up your big hits with raid buffs.
Yeah, it's definitely. I don't know. I can't speak much about that, but I can see where that could happen. Just because it's definitely possible to sim rotations and see where you are when certain things come up. The furthest I know is people are looking at a 20+ second pre-pull timer, so monk can use the third perfect balance and opener because each charge of perfect balance has a 40-second cooldown.
Fine, Sage needs 180 seconds. We can just scoot you in at the end of that.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Works perfect. But yeah, so it's definitely to gain the lunar one, for example, it's definitely you are alternating boot shine and dragon kick.
Right. That's the easy one. That's the one that works like it does now, basically.
Yeah. The 2 different beast chakras is actually your weakest blitz, so you want to actually not use that. That is your snap. I messed up. Blitz.
Right. That's the only bit of course correction that I see.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
And then the
pretty set in
3
stone.
if you need to use the 3 beast type one, it's definitely either you need to refresh the utility side. I don't think it will be truly strict. But it could be, but I don't think it will be.
We'll have to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, until you get to the super high end optimization part. For what it should look like, then of course it'll be strict. But I think just initial thoughts, it seems dynamic enough just because you have the choice between refreshing utility or just doing damage because you don't need to. I don't know. First impression seems fine, but again, I don't play this at high level.
Right.
So
I will say, the one monk I know the one player I know who does play monk at a high level, is not pleased with the changes, to hear him tell it. And one of the biggest issues he has is the developers said that they wanted to target kind of structuring combat buffs around the 1 and 2 minute windows, and most jobs have fallen into step with that. Monk does not.
Monk is one of the ones that have not. Is Brotherhood still 90 seconds then?
No, Riddle of Fire is every 60 seconds. So every 60 seconds, you're boosting your own damage by 15% for 20 seconds. Every 40 seconds, you're going through a perfect balance set. Every 90 seconds, you're going through Riddle of Wind, which is a new button that is cutting your auto attack delay by 50%.
Oh yeah, that's just.
And then every 2 minutes, you're getting Brotherhood.
Okay, so it's just the blitz system doesn't line up with that.
I would
The
agree with that.
And
Yeah.
Riddle of Wind.
I would agree that it sounds jank as fuck.
Yeah, I think honestly changing Riddle of Wind to be 60 seconds, I don't know.
Well, to be
no.
fair, like everything is still subject to change.
Yeah, it's just taking it as it is now. Speed buffs are always iffy because they're harder, especially auto attack delay. Auto attack delay is very, very annoying to think about compared to just normal global cooldowns.
Mhm.
Right.
Under normal circumstances, auto attacks for most classes is fixed, and there's very little you can do to adjust how often you auto attack, if
Yeah.
at all. I think Ninja has modifiers to it just based off of Huton, right? And
Yeah, Huton definitely speeds it up.
Samurai as
Presumably
well,
Monk
maybe.
has modifiers with their Grease Lightning trait.
Yeah, monks. I think monks also. Yeah, monks, samurai, and ninja. I think auto attack faster than dragoon and the tanks. For the people who stay in melee range. Yeah. So
I will say that Brotherhood did get improved to compensate for it taking
Oh,
an
yeah.
extra 30 seconds to come out, which is, while Brotherhood is up, it's not just boosting the damage of your party members, it's basically flooding you with the
Oh, yeah,
normal type chakra. It is now a 100% chance to grant you a globe of regular ass
God.
chakra every time one of your party members uses a weapon skill or casts a spell.
Oh
Um,
god, if you don't press that button, you're over it. Oh, that's
You're gonna press it basically after every GCD, I feel like, despite all of the other things that you're presumably
that's
fitting
so
in.
much overcapping. Oh my god, that's painful.
Not if
Yeah.
you're lucky, just pray that you're even luckier than most bards.
But,
And while we're talking about jank, by the by, just gonna throw that out there that Monk, speaking as a red mage player, I know what it feels like to be just weirdly forgotten by the developer. Their AoE combo does not apply their personal buff.
it doesn't apply. But okay.
So
Like,
it could still change, but
It can
right
still
now
change.
it's
Right now it does not. Right now,
Taylor, we've already gone over Scholar.
the thing that Dragoon was begging for so long, it got. But you have to go into a little bit of single target in every AoE pull while you're on Monk.
I think with Monk, it's slightly mitigated by the fact that you can use form shift, an ability that allows the next global cooldown to ignore stance requirement
it's like Make Shisui, except
on the global cooldown and only on your next ability you
Yeah.
press.
yeah.
So it's not bad.
I will agree that it mitigates it, but
But
I will
it's
also
still,
agree
like-
that the only thing you mitigate is damage. This is hurting you. You are
Yeah.
making it less, but it still
Yeah.
hurts.
It's not like you have to hit like dragon kick or boot shine into twin snakes and then continue do your melee combo.
You actually get to start out with your shiny new animation button. They finally
Oh,
fixed
yeah.
the tracks in the ground from Armor the Destroyer.
Prior to Shadow of the Destroyer.
Yes. With a little bit of extra potency.
I'm gonna miss the like epic scream at the sky while you stomp the ground and crack it in a circle.
You can always play content at a lower level and still see it
I
whenever
mean,
you want.
the best part about it is like going next to your FC house and then using it, and I think it will like trail up the walls or show up on like the ceiling.
Jesus.
Like,
Oh man, don't even get
very
me started with
amusing
like the
animation
paladin jank that I fucking pulled on people.
oh my god, fucking
Freaked the fuck out of people with that. But yeah,
spawn the wings on the ground, but you're like 3 stories up. Yeah.
Other than that, did we mention that Monk is getting a gap closer now?
it's always had a
I
gap closer. It's just got changed,
It's getting a non-damaging gap closer,
which
I
is
love.
perfect. Yeah, I
Oh
enjoy
my
that
god!
too.
If they removed the damage from every gap closer, I would be a happy man.
Because then it would
Yeah.
be used as a gap closer.
Because now it's utility.
Now
And
it
it's
is utility and not something you're spending constantly for every
Yeah.
little drop of damage.
Yeah.
like I hate the onslaught changes, but that's tank talk.
Yep.
Anyway,
we'll talk
let's
about
take
that later for sure.
Um, it's fucking bleach. They put bleach. Monk takes expression from Bleach. It's
They put
Sunito.
bleach in my game. Yay.
Bleach the
just
anime, not the not the
Stuff bleach
cleaner.
on your eyes.
you don't need to know that.
I feel like we do.
But yeah, so it's just a dash to target. It's either enemy or ally, which is really really cool. Both having the option to do both is fantastic in so many ways.
Yeah.
So
Like
to summarize our thoughts on Monk a little bit, then a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of really flashy animations, a lot of potential for jank. We eagerly await to see if it actually shakes out to a good job.
and then just the best damn gap closer in the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it
Just
lets you
looks so
play the
fucking
game.
cool. Yeah.
It looks cool, and you can target anything,
and you get
Yeah.
3 charges of it.
and you get three. Like it's
just
the
good.
best gap closer in the game.
Anyways.
Except for Icarus. Moving on
Icarus is the
to
exact same thing. It just
Dragoon.
doesn't have charges.
It's on a healer, which immediately. Anyway,
Yeah, we'll talk
Dragoon,
about it later.
Dragoon.
Uh,
The OG Maimer. What
it's-
did
And-
the Dragoon get in Endwalker?
Nox's personal choice. Wait, we'll get to Endwalker. We'll get to Endwalker. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
yeah.
You're getting ahead of yourselves.
But yeah,
I'm not drunk. You're drunk. Go on.
All right. So Dragoon, its damage, its optimization and damage comes from its off globals. If you know anything about Final Fantasy, Dragoons like to jump. They will jump up, slam down, and then do the same thing over and over again. So
They die.
yeah. So in 14, Dragoons have a very, and I guess stable is a word. It's just a repeating loop of the same 10 global cooldowns.
It's very 9 to 5.
It's just you repeat that ad nauseum. There's no variation in that. The variation in the Dragoon rotation comes in using your off globals, between them, weaving correctly. Essentially, which it's fun. It's fun, and obviously, I love the class. Dragoon is like top 5 Final Fantasy classes for me, just in general. So, yeah, you did repeat those. You fill it with your jumps and your other off globals, and then you do your damage. That is Dragoon. It is the melee I recommend if you want to dive into melees, because
rotation, right?
yeah, the global cooldown rotation it is one, it's the slowest of all the melee, which isn't a bad thing, and two, it kind of gets you into the motions of pressing your global cooldowns, because you have several, you use them often, and
It teaches you the basics of
Yeah.
positionals.
yeah, basics, like the positionals are not hard on the class. There's only three abilities that require positionals.
It teaches you the importance
are
of combos.
They are rewarding when you use them. Like, you see new buttons light up, which
Have
is
a good night,
yeah.
Tiller.
very good way of teaching players the
Yeah.
importance of hitting those buttons.
It's a very good class, and
Yeah.
it's perfect. It's almost
you get some good
perfectly
rest.
built up throughout the entire expansions. Nothing really has changed about it beyond additions that just work.
I would say that it is probably the most consistently well-designed job in the game.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. It's like every time new expansions come out, what they add, the class changes they do to it, just add to it. They don't remove anything, really. Yeah.
So let's talk about what they removed.
Yeah. So really, the new things they're getting are really just upgrades to existing skills and like one new skill.
The thing I was baiting you to say, by the way, is the fact that Blood of the Dragon is now gone.
It's not gone. It's a trait instead of a button.
It got the monk treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's passive now.
Mhm.
Crap, this sucks because I really gotta go to the bathroom right now. I'll be right
Yeah, no worries. We'll just
We can talk around the basic stuff while you're gone.
Yeah.
So let's dive immediately into the capstone, the thing he's most excited to talk about. No.
Go ahead and take it away. I've been doing a lot of talking. Not a lot,
Well,
but I like to listen.
compared. Oh, good. I'm glad to know that. What to talk about with Dragoon that won't infringe on Nox's excitement? So, like I said, Blood of the Dragon is got the Grease Lightning rework. It's now just a trait, which almost leaves me to wonder why they didn't do the same to Ninja's Huton. But I think there's just too much of the kit probably that interacts with it actively. Whereas most of how Dragoon upkept Blood of the Dragon in Shadowbringers specifically, I remember Ori talking about this, the upkeep was very passive. The upkeep was very just natural as part of your normal combo. There was no more needing to throw in like AoE combo hits during single target rotations just to keep it up.
Yeah.
As I mentioned while we were talking about Monk, their AoE combo, in addition to the other modifier it got, the second hit of that combo now puts the it's called Power Surge now. It's the personal damage buff is now applied to Dragoon upon hitting that button. It's not just extended, which honestly I think is the change that Ori was most excited about.
Resident Dragoon, yeah.
Yes, Resident Dragoon and my roommate.
Mhm.
Speaking of surges, Life Surge is getting a second charge.
What does
That's
Life
pretty
Surge do?
nice. Life Surge is an off-global buff that you apply to yourself. I believe it is on a 60-second cooldown. And it guarantees that the next weapon skill you hit is a guaranteed crit. And it also heals you for a certain amount of the damage you deal with it. It's actually a 45-second cooldown, my mistake. To get it's a 45-second charge time now. So you're always pairing that with your heaviest hitting single target weapon skill, which I believe is still Ride and Thrust. And we were talking a bit just a bit ago before Nox stepped away about how Dragoon's positionals are by no means burdensome, but they are very rewarding in how they work. Because as you progress through your combo tree, as long as you are hitting your positionals properly, when your combo loops back to what should be your first hit, it will instead change to this flashy move called Ride and Thrust. And you will now be you sort of end and start your combo on a new, stronger hit as a reward for finishing your positionals. And that's typically what you would want to pair Life Surge with. It is
And
not. It is not a self heal utility skill. That is just a nice bonus.
yeah, it's also important to add that I think they removed that positional requirement for going into Endwalker, at least so far, right?
Let
Pretty
me
sure.
double check on that. I believe you are correct. In fact, now that I'm thinking back on it, they may have tweaked that in the tail end of Shadowbringers. Yes, because the way it used to work is you would have certain buttons that would light up as you went through your combo, and I believe those were positional dependent. But I think all of that got eased, and now you're just seeing enhanced damage each time you do it correctly. What else do we have? I suppose it's worth mentioning that they've tweaked the timing of their buffs. So they have a personal buff called Lance Charge. They've had it for as long as I've known the job. That is now a 60-second cast, so hey, that lines up with every trick attack. Battle Litany, which is their personal raid-wide buff that increases the crit hit rate of yourself and all your party members, is a 2-minute cooldown now. So they get to play nice with basically any comp. And I believe their Dragon Sight, the Dragoon Tether, was always 2 minutes. I think that's
so.
correct.
Yeah.
Quickly scroll. I'm trying to dance around the brand new mechanic because it truly is kind of the only thing to really go into.
Well,
on Dragoon.
we could also talk about like blood and life. Well, like Life of the Dragon, right? Or is that kind of
Like
getting into it?
No, it's really not. And I guess maybe that's worth
Yeah.
talking about. What Dragoon is getting in Endwalker, at least as I understand it, is a pseudo. It's almost like an echo of what had been their. One moment, please.
Hmm? Oh.
Oh, I always have to be careful when I say that word because it triggers one of my Amazon devices. Um, so basically, the way that Life of the Dragon works is it is a state that you put on yourself that empowers your jumps, your off global jumping abilities. And one of those jumps, specifically Spine Shatter Dive, I believe. Is it Spine Shatter Dive or High Jump?
High jump.
Uh, can only be executed high jump. You're right. Okay. So every time you hit high jump, you gain the ability to use a different off global called Mirage Dive. Executing Mirage Dive will increase your dragon gauge. It'll open up this little eye on your job gauge a little bit more. And once that's fully open after 2 uses of high jump and Mirage Dive, that lets you go into your life phase, which is when you get to spam out those big glowing red line AoEs that you see the Dragoons doing. That would be Girskogel, which changes into Nastrand. Dragoons really like line AoEs. If you're thinking about picking up a melee DPS, make sure you like line AoEs instead of circles or cones. So every time that a Dragoon goes into their life phase, all that really means... Oh, welcome back.
Mm.
All that really means is they're going into a point where they're spamming out a bunch of off-global line AoEs via this Nastrand ability.
Yes.
What Dragoon is getting in Endwalker, which is what we were waiting for you to come back for, is kind of comparable to that in that you are building up 2 stacks of something to gain yourself access to a new line AoE. So take it away, Nox.
Okay. Just like one correction because I could still hear.
For it. Oh, good. Please tell me where I was wrong because I know there were at least
You always use life surge on full thrust.
always. Okay.
Yes. Ride and thrust is a buff compared to what it replaces, but it is still weaker than the second step of your combo.
Oh, this is why I don't play Dragoon.
So that's, I believe,
And your
Yeah.
full thrust is getting upgraded in Endwalker, isn't it?
yes. So full thrust, now they brought back pole dancing. So the new move is the Dragoon will, I think it's called Heaven's Thrust. They will plant their spear on the ground
Face
and then like,
top
spin
down.
around it, and then stab the spear upward.
Yep.
So
Really cool. Lots of pink on it. Very flowery.
no, that's Chaos Thrust's upgrade into Chaotic Spring.
Oh,
which applies
okay.
to dot.
Don't
Okay.
worry, there's still more pole dancing to come.
Okay.
So yeah. So the new thing Dragoon gets is called. Did I not write this down?
If you want me to just tell you the name of it. Okay, there you
It's
go.
Wormwind Thrust. It's a new off global, again, a line AoE because Dragoon loves them because they have a spear, which makes sense to do
Line
things
AoE
online.
looks like a spear.
But it's just another line AoE they get. So when step back a bit, when Dragoons use their 2 main positional buttons, as it is now, you have to land the positional of the second one to allow usage of the ability Ride and Thrust. In Endwalker, they are removing the positional requirement. So every time you use a Ride and Thrust, you will gain a stack of what is called Draconian Fire. And with 2 stacks of Draconian Fire, you can use Wormwind Thrust. And that's that.
That's going to be coming up basically once after you've gone through your full combo twice.
It's pretty much up every 10 seconds. It does have a 10-second cooldown, but between getting Raiden, getting Draconian Fires, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 GCDs between Raiden thrusts. So You pretty much use it every 10 seconds. You
Okay.
can hold it, but you have to use it before your ride and thrust so you don't overcap.
Right, because you wouldn't even be able to hold it for an entire run through the combo, because then you would go to essentially a hypothetical 3 stacks of Draconian Fire, which you can't hold.
Yeah, and holding it for 10 seconds just delays every other usage of it because
Right.
the skill itself has a 10-second cooldown, I believe.
It does.
Yeah, so that's it. That is the big thing that Dragoon's getting, which is it's good. It builds up on existing. Um, that, yeah,
Dragoon, we build upon existing frameworks.
yeah,
Because they're also getting a Ride and Thrust-esque move for their AoE lines, right?
yes. So they are Monk has a 3-step AOE combo, but when you use the last hit of Dragoon's AoE combo, Coerth and Torment, you get a stack of Draconian Fire as well. And the first step of the Dragoon AoE combo, Doom Spike, if you have Draconian Fire, it turns Doom Spike into Draconian Fury. So they kind of gave Doom Spike the ride and thrust treatment. Not a bad thing. It's cool.
And it lets you build up to what is it? The Wormwind Thrust. Wormwind Thrust while you're in the AoE as well.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, it's it's not a bad change. It exists. It's there. The biggest change is definitely with the cooldown timings of its buffs. Lance Charge being 60, and then Litany and Dragon Sight being 120.
You were saying something about like an increase in busyness, I think you said.
Yes. Because with Dragoon jumps, you can only press one jump. You don't have this time to keep your GCD rolling and weave something else with the jump.
Because of the animation lock.
Yes, in standard play, that's just not a thing. But so you're pretty busy with all your weaves, and finding weave space is just a little tough. And then of course with the timings change, that also could potentially just change how you enter Life of the like when you choose to enter Life of the Dragon. Which that's an optimization thing, so I won't really talk too much on that. But I feel like it will change, but I'd have to like
You gotta
map
get
it out
boots on the
better.
ground for that.
Yeah, to really get into that. But for the most part, yeah, Dragoon's staying the same, staying constant, and yeah.
Would you say that's a lot of why it makes it really easy to play or learn?
Repeat the question.
Would you say that's a lot of why it makes it easy to learn, easy to play?
Yes. It doesn't it gets changes that are incorporated really well in the existing framework it has, and it doesn't it doesn't reinvent itself every expansion like other jobs. It just builds on itself more in pretty much the cleanest way out of every single job in the game, in my opinion.
I would say that the experience of leveling Lancer all the way up to max level Dragoon is probably the most pleasant leveling experience I ever had.
Yeah, because
There's really just no point where you get confused.
yeah, it's like, oh, I get an extra thing that's used here. Okay. Oh, I get this thing that it's okay for now. It's another button, and then later on, oh, this button triggers this. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just yeah.
At no point are Dragoons taking things off their hotbar because they've reached a certain level.
Yeah, or at no point where like, oh, now I have to completely change the base rotation with how everything fits.
Good old dependable Dragoon.
Like definitely like the global cooldown rotation at 50 is different from 60 onward. If you're optimizing, but it's still like a progression that makes sense as opposed to a progression you change because now it's more optimal to do it this way.
Black Mage, Samurai.
Black Mage is the biggest offender.
Yeah.
Black Mage was the worst leveling experience.
Black Mage,
had.
yeah, just
But
completely changed
just-
at level 60. So.
Yeah.
But we'll talk
Um,
about that when we talk about Black Mage, I would imagine.
Yeah. So
Maybe we will. Maybe we'll see what we have time for when that discussion comes up.
I don't really know what else to say about Dragoon. The two
I
charges
don't think
of Life
there is
Surge.
anything else to say.
I think the two charges of Life Surge, because with the way it is now, you essentially use Life Surge every other full thrust, if I'm thinking back correctly. So now, you pretty much can use it on every single full thrust or Heaven's thrust now, I guess. Once you get the charges, I think. Like there were cases where you would want to use a Life Surge on like Wheeling Thrust or Fang and Claw, the two main positionals of a Dragoon's kit. There are situations where that would be optimal, but
Is that the kind of thing that you'll see maybe in the opener? Because I would imagine that you're going to spend both charges in the opener under, potions and all those other buffs.
it's totally possible. But because it's a long cooldown, because it guarantees a crit, it actually kind of loses significance in the opener because Battle Litany buffs your crit rate.
Okay, that's
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I see that.
So I feel like I feel like the two charges on Life Surge, that's just candy. I don't think it's super amazing because even if you would use it on Wheeling Thrust or Fang and Claw in the opener,
Because it's not actually buffing its damage.
yeah, it's
You
guaranteeing
can
the
afford to
crit.
just let it float a bit.
Yeah, and now with the charge system, like once honestly you won't lose any usages by holding it for the full thrust after the one you just used it on. Right? So after the opener, of course. So like after opener, you use it on two things. Your next full thrust, your next Life Surge is used on full thrust, and you don't lose anything by holding it instead of using it in the same spot in your opener. Stuff like that. So it feels like candy. Not in a bad way. So, and then, oh yeah, and then two charges for Spine Shatter just makes it so Dragoon can actually have a gap closer when it needs one.
No.
Nah, it does
Potency.
damage, fam. Sorry.
Potency.
It does damage, but because of the charge system, it allows for a little bit of leeway depending on fight optimization. But yeah, no, it's still
Believe it when I see it.
yeah, I highly doubt. But like the possibility is there, and that's really
Right.
all. for.
I dreamed a dream in times gone by of gap closers being used to close gaps.
Instead of having to turn around and use
Instead of just
backflip.
being an off global that makes me move weirdly.
Yeah, like Ori is probably the one person who I've seen use elusive jump,
Elusive jump.
the infamous Dragoon backflip in the most creative ways,
Ori
Yep.
loves elusive
and
jump.
gotten like super consistent at it. Like
Or consistent enough that
amazing.
I can adjust for him because he's my stack buddy.
yeah, it's like
Why
it's
we have you on Astro?
on it like every single raid I've been in with the guy. It's been amazing to just watch him backflip and be where he needs to be.
We're close enough that you can't tell the difference.
Yeah, like it's been a treat to watch.
But what if you had a jump back where you always knew exactly where it was going to go and you didn't have to get good at positioning it?
Is this
Is this the segue into Reaper?
Okay, I had two segues in mind. There was either that one or I want to go to bed by 4 a.m. Talk about the Edgelord already.
Okay, all right. Oh yeah, no, I can. Yeah, no. Okay.
Let's
we
talk
have 46 minutes. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
talk
let's-
about the
let's-
job that
let's
has
actually clean this
the
up.
memeing armor.
Let's go with let's talk about the new kid on the block.
The memeing armor. Got it.
God. I don't know. Reaper, like my first glance of Reaper was definitely like, oh, this kind of pulls from like every single melee in existence right now.
This job is reflective of the current job design philosophy.
It's so like basics of Reaper. It has so many gauges.
Yes, okay. It has Mountain Dew code red gauges and Mountain Dew voltage gauges.
I hate that so much, but it's so true. It has the soul gauge, which is built up through your normal 1-2-3 combo.
That would be your code red.
Yes.
None of which have positionals, by the way.
Yeah. So your main combo does not have positionals. You will then spend that red gauge on an off global that will let you use your one of two skills that actually do have positionals, and those two skills build up the soul gate or the
The
uh,
You use your code red abilities to get stacks
shroud.
of Soul Reaver.
That's what it
Yep,
is. Shroud gauge.
Soul Shroud.
My notes. Yeah, no, we'll get to
Your notes
the
are better
part-
than mine
that
because
part.
I straight up just started calling it code red and voltage to
That's
help me keep
totally
it
fine.
straight.
So the blue gauge is gained when you use your positional abilities, which happen like every 6 GCDs. It's positionals are very, very generous on Reaper compared to the other melee.
But they have to be there because
it's
I'm
like when
Melee.
you're a tank, but you want to see what melee DPS feels like.
Like Dark
Kind-
Knight.
and so then when you gain enough of the shroud gauge, the blue one, you get to become a magical girl and transform, channeling the
I
power of the
don't
wolf.
think that's their job fantasy somehow.
I don't care. My first
Okay.
thought was Reaper is a magical girl, and no one can tell me otherwise. And my LB3 macro is going to be a Sailor Moon quote.
You're gonna get beat up in the lunchroom.
I don't care. I will just hold
It'll
a sign
te-
that says worth.
it'll give them some character growth.
It'll just be like one of those like, um,
Hey, someone clip that, by the way.
what's the meme?
Reaper's a magical girl.
Yeah, no, Reaper's a magical girl. I have a tweet from like months ago. That is just
Die on this
Reaper's.
hill.
This
If I don't
Was-
see that in my comments section when I post this on YouTube, I'm firing you.
what's the quote from the MCU? He's out of line, but he's right. Yeah, no, come at me. I will fight anyone. Reaper's a magical girl. It's the funniest revelation I've ever had. But yeah, so you turn into a magical girl. You transform. You get you get an edgy as hell cloak. And you go fast.
Isn't it JoJo?
No, why would it be JoJo?
You get that stand thing? I don't know.
I mean, I guess normal gameplay you're JoJo, but like I don't think they
To enter
combine-
magical girl mode, there aren't any. Well, I mean, there are a couple of stands that like you can wear as armor, but we're not talking about them.
Yeah, but yeah. So once you transform, okay, it's not called. It's actually called Lemure Shroud, is the Lemure mode.
Pure. Yep.
You gain
Like
5
Lemurian.
stacks of bluebells, which are called Lemure Shroud. And then those 2 buttons with positionals you had before now no longer have those positionals, and they are what you use to spend those blue bells. And every time you spend 2 blue bells, or every time you spend a blue bell, you get a red bell. And the red bell lets you 2 red bells let you use an off global. Specific to the transformation.
So,
yeah.
if in listening to this conversation, your primary takeaway has been, I wish to play Melee DPS, it sounds like they have the most stickers, you are correct, and you should be playing Reaper.
Yeah, it in terms of its general like global cooldown usage, Reaper is the simplest out of all the melee DPS.
We're never
Where would
in
you-
any doubt as to what you're supposed to be doing at this point in time.
And
Kind of,
this is
yeah.
kind of speculation too, but like where exactly among the hierarchy of just like overall like raid focus damage versus personal focus damage, like where would you put Reaper?
I put it in the middle.
In the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's probably going to come in probably slightly above Ninja in terms of personal output.
Yeah, I'd put it firmly in the middle, because like, it has the same number of like party buffs as, well, it has like its party buff Arcane Circle is really pretty much Brotherhood, but the complexity of Reaper otherwise compared to Monk, I'd say does not warrant it doing more damage than Monk. I think Reaper is very simplistic in its base form, and then when you build up on that, I think it's just probably the trend they've had with maiming is that each capstone level cap just kind of builds on what's there fairly well. And
you're very. I feel like the normal, just going through their normal rotation, it's going to be very clear when you're supposed to be shifting gears.
Yeah.
And to be able to keep yourself on track that closely while still not really being punished all that harshly for hopping off the track at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that there's going to be a lot of wiggle room with this job while also doing a decent job of just guiding you back on track.
Yeah. Because like using your off globals to allow your positionals, that's just cost 50 red, which is when you cap at 100, that's a lot of leeway. Especially when your main 123 only gives you 10 out of 100. And then your
Hmm.
two positional abilities give you 10 blue each, but you need 50 blue to transform.
Not just because it's red and blue, but it's comparable to. I feel like there's definitely more complexity in what I'm about to bring up, but it puts me in mind of Machinist.
Yes,
You
that's
have to be very determined to play your job improperly if you are consistently overcapping on Machinist
yes,
on either of your resources.
yes. Like, yeah, that's yeah. I can't say it any better. Because like the spenders for each gauge use half the gauge. That
And
gives you a lot of leeway, especially when you have um assuming slowest global cooldown time, you have 12 and a half seconds. Um, it is 12 and a half seconds, 5 global cooldowns to gain enough of the red gauge to do anything else. You know,
boy, I hope Reapers don't suddenly need a ton of skill speed.
um, I was scared of that, and then the one skill I had problems with has charges, so I'm not worried about that
So
anymore.
so again, we've come back to the wiggle room element of the
Yeah,
job.
like the
Uh,
one strict thing that looks strict, that skill has charges. So like drift will happen by virtue of its burst phase is a really weird time total, but overall, like yeah, I'm
it's
not.
almost like this job was designed for a lot of people switching to Reaper, even people who have never played a melee DPS in their life.
Yeah, I yeah. Reaper is compared to the other melee DPS, especially after you've gone through it and been like, oh yeah, no, all this makes sense. It's very very straightforward. It will be very straightforward. I feel like if you want variable gameplay, you will go to a striking DPS or ninja. Well, maybe not ninja.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, if you want variable gameplay, stay the fuck away from
Yeah,
them.
I think variable gameplay will be like the striking DPS domain, whereas very straightforward gameplay will probably be the maiming DPS. Um,
Which
that's
are all
That's
fun in
something
their
we
own
could
right.
easily
why.
overclock into.
And
Yeah.
like straightforward isn't bad. It's
Mm.
just much more beginner friendly, much easier to learn.
Yeah, and I think you could. I mean, unless we have other things we want to talk about with Reaper, like I feel like that's a good segue to kind of
I
finish
had
things
one other
off as
thing
well.
I wanted to bring up,
Hmm?
just while we're talking about sort of what is the role, what is the concept that each set of gear kind of conveys.
Hmm?
It feels like the maiming stuff is less direct raid utility, but still valuable. Because we talked about Arcane Circle a little bit in terms of it basically being Brotherhood, but with slightly more jank as to how the Reaper gets damage out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, but they also have their healing raid utility buff, which is also kind of weird, I believe. I'm trying to remember how
Yeah.
Arcane Crest functions.
So Arcane Crest gives you a 10% personal shield on the Reaper. And then when that breaks, it's not until like level 80 something. It's a trait they get. But when that personal shield breaks, they give a party-wide regen that is like 100 potency for like 15
15 seconds.
seconds.
So 5 ticks of 100 potency. What on earth does that draw from, I wonder?
Are like the reason for that?
No, like
Oh, no, not
like the stat.
I'm wondering.
Like,
Yeah, I'm
does it
wondering.
draw from mind? Does it draw from strength?
Does it draw from
Oh,
healing
well, if
potency?
it's anything like how like I'd assume that it probably scales like red mage or summoners, like red mage healing or Verkir
Yeah,
or
like
the Summoner
Phoenix's
Phoenix.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
I,
started
I assume they're
that way.
similar. But like that like 500 potency heal has, but it's like what is the cooldown on Arcane Crest? Isn't it like every 30 seconds or
It's
something?
30 seconds.
That's
It's up pretty fucking
that's
frequently.
like assuming like you can get the damage to proc it. That's practically 50% uptime on a 100 potency regen.
You do need the damage to break it, because it only lasts for 5 seconds. So odds are, since you're
Yeah.
presumably not getting hit in the face, it does the raid wide break it, which it
I-
should. I don't know of any raid wide that doesn't do at least 10% of a DPS's health.
Yeah,
I'd be
where
interested to see a party full of Reapers and seeing if like the regen stacks on top of each other.
oh like fucking
Like
Phoenix
Summoner,
over
yeah, like
here.
Summoner Phoenix.
Well, I mean, we'll talk more. The summoner we'll
Yeah.
talk about. But
But like, I remember when I was looking at, I wish I could remember the name of the person who puts it together, but they put together basically a mitigation calculator to help like healers and tanks.
yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah. I was toying around with the one for the cheese strat in E10S.
Oh, the like
When the
stand in a
dogs hop onto the
line.
wall, yeah, when the dogs hop onto the wall and breathe on you, if your shields and mitigations are strong enough, it can't penetrate, which means you don't get the damage down. That hence the cheese element of the strat.
Oh yeah.
But in the case of the DPS, it was always a question of like, if they can't help themselves, tanks need to spend personal mitigations on them. You know, you have to give the Dragoon TBN, for example, is what I'm thinking of. And to have for Reaper to have something of that for themselves, just it's niche. It's very niche,
Yeah.
but it's still utility.
It's also like definitely just weird because like thematically what a Reaper is.
I mean, if you want to talk thematics, I suppose the fact that they can open a portal to hell, jump through it, and move somewhere else, and then get sucked back to it like fucking Spawn.
Hell's I mean, it's those skills are Hell's Ingress and Hell's Egress, so
Yep, leaving hell and returning to hell.
yeah.
But anyways,
Yeah. I'm
Anyways,
excited.
yeah, we can segue out of Reaper talk into the closing thoughts.
yeah, I mean, we don't have too. I don't have too many. Like overall, I don't expect to take too long with that. But like just overall, like where do you think Melee DPS is in just terms of like the overall kind of spot that it's in? And obviously each job on its own is kind of varied. You know,
Mhm.
or you could say very definitively like Dragoon is in a pretty good spot right now. And then it comes a lot more as kind of a toss up for like Monk and stuff. Like but like overall, right? As an archetype, like how would you say that Melee's in a pretty decent spot?
Yeah. I mean,
I would say that they're in a pretty decent spot. I hadn't really thought about it until we had our conversation this evening. Just sort of how certain parts of the role are becoming homogenized,
Mhm.
with basically everybody having something like that little fill up over time to spend on a single gauge spender, whether it be Baba Kakra, whether it be the fifth chakra, whether it be Shinten. More and more jobs sort of revolving around the accruement of stickers of one kind or another. But that's nothing that I would be concerned about at this point in time.
Yeah.
mhm.
I wouldn't expect that trend to really continue. Frankly, I think once we're done with Endwalker, we'll see radical changes anyway. But
Yeah. And I mean, I I kind of I feel like I not really misspoke, but like I kind of oversimplified it because yes, Ninja gets like gauge and like every 20 seconds or something. Um it's 20 seconds for Mudras, right?
Yes.
Or yeah, like you have your 3 stickers to spend or whatever. Up to 3 stickers to spend but like Ninja plays so differently from Monk, which plays so differently from Samurai, which plays so differently from, so on and so forth. That like if the only homogenization part of melee is just get stickers, spend stickers, I think that there's definitely enough varied gameplay there to keep you kind of to keep melee in kind of feeling in a healthy spot, right? Like there's no real there's not a ton of overlap between any two jobs, I would
You
say.
could even argue that it's a value add. I know I'm flip flopping immediately, but I'm
Yeah.
just chatting. You could argue that it's a value add because it provides some point of commonality between at least some of the jobs to the other ones in the role.
Hmm.
That if someone was like, "Oh, I like playing melee DPS. I've been playing samurai for however long. I want to see what ninjas like." And you're like, "All right, I see that the beast chakra are kind of like the sen system that I'm used to. I'm trying to accrue
You mean
however
monk?
many I'm sure I meant monk.
Yeah.
I don't know what I said, but I'm sure I meant what
Yeah.
you said that I said.
Hmm.
Um,
You just
it,
got a
it gives
ninja
you little.
boner. It's cool.
I just got a ninja boner. It just gives you a chance to like, all right, I understand this button. These buttons function like this, but slightly different.
Yeah.
Good for entry level stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I suppose if I were to ask one question of the group as far as melee going into Endwalker, because we asked a very similar question for the healers, what are your thoughts on fight design for Melee, and what do you hope to see from fights in Endwalker? Are you of the opinion
Ooh.
that there should be fewer disengages? Are you of the opinion that uh, disengages should every disengage be solvable with the kit that every job has, or is it still okay for Melee to suffer the fact that no, sometimes you can't be on the boss, and that fucks you more than it fucks the other types of DPS?
I think in a vacuum, yes. I think um like mechanics that make you disengage, but you end up doing other interesting things in the terms of the fight, I think
As
are
opposed
good.
to just stepping back and tapping your toe, just waiting to get back in.
Yeah, instead of like stepping back, greeting, blah blah blah. Like I mean, greed will still exist, obviously, but I think if they make fights have an opening to still be melee friendly, I'm kind of afraid they'll just keep themselves in a fight design hole, if that makes sense.
Kind of.
Like if it would if fights are still like, oh yeah, you can still have like 100% melee uptime here. It kind of limits the things they can do in fights, I feel, and is kind of my main concern in fight design, because fight design already is like fairly limited with how they've gone about it.
I yeah. Um. I don't know.
And I
Like,
think,
go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry. Go ahead.
and I think if they kind of keep this trend where like some avenue of like pure uptime strat can be found, I feel like it could stop them from doing interesting things in fights that require like a um a disengage or something. Um, not necessarily just like a complete, yeah, because we have to have a melee uptime strat, like they can't do like X, Y, and Z. I can't name specifics because I'm not smart enough to do so.
Light
And I,
rampant.
I,
Light rampant comes to mind.
Um,
mm,
from what I've seen, yeah, light rampant is an interesting enough
Like
mechanic that warrants that.
the reason why Ilias strat is so universally panned is because it does nothing for melee uptime specifically.
But
Uh,
it's, from what I've heard, it's is it safer? I don't know much
it
about light rampant.
is
More straightforward.
more straightforward in terms of movement, but
more straightforward, and I would argue that there is more leeway with what you're working with,
yeah,
which
Okay.
in terms of LR and in terms of early LR prog with PF groups, it
Yeah.
was required. We just wanted to see past this mechanic, my guy. We'll worry about
Yeah.
clearing afterwards, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there's something to be said about it. A mechanic just being safer, or a strategy just being safer,
Mm.
yeah.
and more consistent. So yeah, And I think
Grind disengages where after you've disengaged, there's something else for you to do. Be it there's something I need to go hit over here, like a small ad that has to be killed or something. But
yeah.
You know, it would be really interesting for just DPS in general.
Hmm.
Um, I'd like to see kind of come back. So do you remember in 011S, blue and yellow fists,
Yes.
and how like you could, and how like for a bit of inconvenience in terms of just like overall movement, you would be able to give some of your DPS, three of your DPS, um, a DPS buff,
Yes.
right? Like I'd like to see a lot more of that for DPS in general, not just melee, but especially for melee, right? Like something of just like forced downtime, some like spears dropping, or dragoons dropping from like Orban Monastery's final boss, Seraph, or something like that, where like you're forced to have downtime, but in return you get a damage increase that is more than if you just kept uptime the whole time. And having and designing your rotation around getting that specific buff. And let's say like now suddenly, like if you needed to six-sided star, to be able to keep your buffs going while you're in downtime, right? You still get like an overall damage increase, and you get to use buttons that you don't normally use in raids.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
be interested to see if they could make that work.
Yeah. I think doing stuff like that, doing stuff different, especially like in a savage environment at the least, where the whole point is to optimize as best you can. I think that would be fantastic. Um,
Yeah,
and then I think the player base is in a good spot now, actually, where they could maybe bring back some things they were doing in like Gordius, for example, because
high
Gordius.
five, high five the ads. But
Maybe not like a fight with ads because TP doesn't exist and MP gain is so much more than it was back then.
yeah,
So like a full ad fight would not exist.
but
But
yeah, I think the worst thing they could probably do with fight design is just, again, like as you said, 100% uptime. It's literally just a dummy fight. Can you move
can you like do these
slightly enough?
steps but you're
Yeah,
still in the boss's hit
yeah,
range and blah blah blah? Like, come on, do something better,
yeah,
or maybe not better, but like do something more interesting. Because like like still my personal favorite Savage fight in the game is still A1 Savage. Because there's the distinct part in it where like I mean you switch into two light parties because there's two bosses, but also like each boss will spawn two ads, right? And so each DPS has to take an ad, but then they also have to kite it to a certain spot and kill the ad at at certain spots that are fairly random to and then when you kill those ads they leave a field that will mini whatever's in it, and then you catch missiles that would wipe the party in those fields. I thought that was amazing. I love that.
And I have not seen anything anywhere close to that in my
yeah.
Savage experience.
Yeah.
For reference, I started playing mid Stormblood. I think Brad started playing around the same time, but really got into the game Shadowbringers, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
So
I made it.
yeah.
I started playing first part of Stormblood and then
Yeah.
broke off the game before 4.1 came out.
Yeah. So the big downside of Gordius is that it killed the ratings.
That is
Yeah,
what I have heard. I have heard
It
that
was-
Pixie Man was
it was
a nightmare.
but to
Like-
bring everything back though,
But yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
I don't want to get
Yeah,
too distracted
I
talking
think
about what
I
once
think
was.
I think they just need to like do stuff like that. Do stuff that's weird. I think would be very much worth coming back. Because I mean, like, you look at because they did it for T, like each DPS gets an ad, has to keep it low but not kill it, and then sack the ad and blah blah blah. I think there's definitely something to be said about doing interactive like ad mechanics like that.
Hmm.
That would like force uptime away from just doing things like that to force uptime away from the boss, but still feel very satisfying to pull off in raid. I think they have basic ideas, and I think Endwalker is a good time to bring a lot of those back and build upon those ideas because like the player base on average really, especially like the world first raiders and all those people were like they're all much better players than they were back then, and in a lot of ways the player base is much better than it was back then. So
Much more solid.
yeah,
Yeah, and like just overall game design, overall class design, um, and just the sheer amount of resources that I think players have now is just so different compared to
compared to
even last X pack, even Stormblood.
yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
like there are tools there to make players to get players that want to get better to improve in ways that they want,
Yeah.
for sure.
So like 100% I think if they like it is time to introduce the weird stuff back that they
Yeah.
were using in Alexander.
Yeah. um yeah, I just want there to be things that keep things interesting. Like, I think my one complaint that I had, because I didn't play Melee for very, very long, um when I was subbing in as a Melee for who knows what, um for a while. I think a lot of it was just like rotations, especially once you optimize it, felt very static.
Yeah.
In a way that, like, until you got to E11, closer to, yeah, and until you got to a certain point in E11S, it just everything felt like a dummy. And it's like I could basically get the same effect, kind of mirroring a video in Savage, while practicing on a strike dummy, and like
Yeah.
not really care, basically. Things got a lot more varied when it came to cycles. Things got a lot more varied when it came to Shiva versus Titan in E12S and stuff. And so once you started kind of factoring those things in, like keeping uptime and maintaining your rotation while still doing mechanics, that started getting more interesting. And I think it's a good step, especially for an expansion that was supposed to be very beginner friendly. But I agree that, like, it just, I think that if we continue within the same pace, it gets kind of stale in terms of just overall gameplay.
Yeah.
Um, for DPS, and that's a lot of why I swapped to healer in the first place. Is just I like variation, I like variety in my Savage fights. Like, I'm not saying that like DPS should now be able to like have like full agency of like rezzing themselves and shit like that. Obviously, like what I'm looking for, what I'm asking for is just like, and what makes healer so fun is just no two runs ever feel the same, right? And so like no two pulls of like E12S will ever feel the same because you could get a Titan mechanic or you could get a Shiva mechanic as your very first mechanic of the fight, and then you could get big lions versus little lions for for
Later
lions
on. Yeah.
later on. Yeah, and so having to map around that specific variation in your gameplay, like that makes it interesting. Like, you don't know what you're gonna get till you get it. Um, and to me, that's what healing is, right? Like, you can't expect 8 people to maintain perfect uptime, do the strats perfectly, and never get hit more than is necessary. Um,
Every single pull.
every single pull. Yeah, exactly. And so, like, you have to use your resources in such a way that you get the job done, but also you have kind of contingency plans in case somebody does like fuck up a Titan mechanic in E12S, and just they will die if they don't get healing, kind of a thing. And I want that sort of variation for DPS, but in a way that makes it feel healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think talking about this in context of Melee is probably one of the easier ways to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because now beyond rotational stuff, you have positioning.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Exactly.
you have you have to be in melee range. Blah blah blah. Like there's more to talk about in terms of
There's more moving pieces that are affected as you change what is being asked of the players.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Because you don't. The feeling I'm getting from listening to the both of you is like, you don't want your optimization to basically be my core rotation, but I'm figuring out where to put in slight detours, and you don't want the boss to never be anything more than a minor irritation to you. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the boss should force you to respect what it's doing via its mechanics, and I'm not just talking about respecting the damage it's going to do to you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The boss should say, "This is what I'm going to be doing to you. It's gonna screw over your rotation big time if you don't figure out something." And it's not just, "Oh, if I dance out here and Shikuchi back in, I'm not losing anything," kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like instead of thinking I have to disengage, it's I get to disengage. Kind of a mindset is what I want for
Yeah.
melee specifically. Because melee suffer the most from like forced downtime. And I can say that from personal experience, right? Like, as a samurai in like let's say some like more normal content like copied factory, right? Like I have to do my rotation from the beginning with some minor variance in like how much Kenki I have, but
Because
overall I have to get my buffs up in the same order every time, right? But like if I'm playing Black Mage, I can literally start my rotation by hitting forced thundercloud proc thunder 3 into my fire phase, and I already have more DPS. Right? Like the forced downtime between bosses fucks over melee the most. And so like I want
Yeah.
and like that translates, it doesn't matter if it's forced downtime during a boss or like between bosses, like it just fucking sucks. And I want it to not suck as bad. I want it to feel rewarding to decide that you have to disengage and then get rewarded by like a damage buff or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? Obviously that leaves very little in terms of like what can be done for encounters, but you know, it's a start. It's a way to kind of get the conversation going, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like they've definitely started like introducing like, oh hey, yeah, we're marking all the DPS with this and all the non-DPS, blah blah blah. I think in previous expansions they were like, we're marking the ranged and now we're marking the melee, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And I think they can, like, instead of just keeping one paradigm in a fight, they can do both. Or even just like, yeah, someone's gonna get this mark, pay attention, stuff like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was trying to think back in like how we do clock spots now, for example, where we have like DPS on intercardinals and then the non-DPS on the cardinals. Like, I'm trying to think back and like when they did clock spots in like Heavensward content, I don't think that's how it was.
No.
Like I remember in a lot of like EXs in Heavensward because I didn't do that much Savage. Heavensward was a lot of just like, hey, we're throwing the ninja on the rear because trick attack, and it's like, why?
Yeah. I also liked like specific like not downtime but forced movement in such a way as like O12S, where like you had phase 2 of O12S, you had green tethers and blue tethers, and you're tethered to like your party members, and so like I think what was it, like green tethers had to spread out and blue tethers had to go in. No, it's the
Yeah,
other way around. Other way around.
something like that. But
Something
yeah,
like that. You know, or like you're forced to move a certain way and like kind of dancing around that to while also still maintaining uptime was very interesting, and that kind of doesn't exist anymore or hasn't existed in any of Shadowbringers,
yeah,
at least from my recent memory.
yeah. I feel like Shadowbringers definitely was a lot of just like, hey, it's either that all the DPS get this or all the non-DPS get this. There's not really much variance in how it works.
Except Black Smokers. I like Black Smokers. That was a really fucking cool mechanic. And I wish they were that creative with other mechanics. Just my personal opinion.
God, God, imagine if anybody could get any. Oh wait, no, I was going to say the towers phase of 7, but then I remembered that a lot of that was just weirdly proximity based. Ignore me.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's getting
We'll,
late.
we'll get some. We'll get more. We'll get more
brain's
weird.
winding down.
We'll get more weird fights under your belt eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah.
I picked a couple of very safe tiers to start savaging on.
Oh my god. I will always and forever just speak of the horror that is fucking O10 Savage. Fuck
Oh.
Midgard Zormer. I hate his ass
Oh,
so
God.
fucking much.
Oh my god.
The
Join us
worst
in a
fight.
couple of weeks when
The
we do
worst
our
fight.
O10S retrospective.
God,
podcast.
like, yeah,
It's
it was
really
just
good
just-
therapy session.
there was just so much fucking jank. Like, I just remember Sam suffering so much with just like, why the fuck did I die to this hot tail versus not dying to this hot tail, you know? And like the variation of just tanks being like, oh yeah, by the way, I punched you once and you die in 10 seconds and there's nothing you can do. Fuck that fight,
Or
dude.
like, yeah, you see all
Fuck
these
that
tank
guy.
busters. I'm gonna force you guys not to swap. I don't
Mhm.
have any cooldowns though. That's not my
And
problem.
yeah, exactly. I'd cover, get fucking autoed through the cover, and just die. Fuck that bitch. Hate him so much. Fuck you, Midgard Zormer.
Man.
But yeah, all right. Enough Midgard Zormer hate.
Yeah.
For
Melees
now.
Yeah.
look interesting. They all look interesting.
Make
Um,
fights
I think
interesting for
There's a bad
Melee.
one punch.
The only thing we're really waiting on now is just fight design.
Yeah,
Mm.
and we'll see how it
Design
goes.
and just how jank is Monk once you get boots on the ground.
Yeah,
Yeah, and ninja as
Shines on the
well.
ground.
So
but yeah. And I think I think that's a really good place to kind of stop. Well, unless we didn't answer the question you had originally asked.
I don't even know what you're talking to.
The one who
Me?
asked the question,
I
yes.
mean, I don't ask questions. I just rant.
My question was very thoroughly answered. Thank you both.
Okay. Okay. How about you, Brad? Are you looking forward to trying out Melee? Maybe not in a Savage setting, but like just in
In a role swap setting.
a role swap setting, where you inevitably end up going Ninja, and I will be going Black Mage or whatever.
So your actual question is, Brad, are you looking forward to checking out Ninja at some point? Yes, I am. It's going to be a ways down the line. I don't imagine that I will level a melee in the first like 5 jobs that I get to 90, but maybe after that, I'll be checking it out. I'm definitely interested to see how Ninja changes. I'm not going anywhere near Reaper. Fucking, I have too much goddamn self-respect.
Can I make you wear pink since you're like
No.
as a Reaper?
No, you can't.
Not even a
Oh,
little.
Dude, you can help.
Nice
You can
of you
help
to
me,
ask.
Yeah, I'll totally just. You know, I should like prep a glamour plate to look like a sailor scout. I think that's
should.
hilarious.
Yeah.
I'll get the sailor shirt.
I can help you craft it. It's cool.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I do need to make a Reaper glam for my alts because we don't know when data centers dropping. So
You're not just gonna
Yeah.
wait for the artifact gear? Isn't that
Why
what
would I-
literally
Yeah.
every Reaper is gonna be wearing?
Oh yeah, but anyways, I think just moving forward to just kind of
How to
talking about my overall plan leading up into Endwalker. I think what I'll be doing is, well, like obviously we're gonna be doing all the other archetypes, ranged, fizz, ranged, magical. I'm gonna try and get multiple casts within the same weekend, or within the same kind of time frame when I'm streaming. So it's really just a matter of figuring out who is available and what they would like to talk about or what they want to bring up. I can't imagine Fizz range taking very long at all, which is why I'm kind of pushing to see if we can squeeze that into a like bigger cast of
like caster talk or
caster and just like have range, just overall range talk and talk Fizz range
Yeah.
versus magical ranged.
Yeah.
How long
And
it
then-
took us to do 5 melee?
Yeah.
I think 6 jobs will be even easier.
I mean, what did Dancer really get, right?
I'll have
Dancer got GCD drift. That's what it got.
Anyway, yeah, that's a story for another day. But overall, I think I want to kind of cap all of it off with like the Thursday before Endwalker drops, Endwalker Early Access drops, kind of have a Shadowbringers retrospective.
That would be fun.
And while servers are down, start a stream a little on the earlier side, just kind of talk, with whoever wants to come by, and just see where everyone feels about the end of Shadowbringers going into Endwalker, how it felt to play. Not really talk too much about story stuff because everyone is how they are with story. I'm not gonna get too deep into that.
Going over gameplay stuff.
But yeah, just
changes, blah, blah, blah.
gameplay. What we were expecting going into it, what we kind of got out of Shadowbringers, what we're and like overall what hopes and dreams we have just in general for Shadowbringers. We're kind of touching on it now, but like kind of retouching, reconnecting with that. I think would be probably for the best. But yeah, I think for now that's probably a good place to end the podcast and end the stream.
Yep. Before, find something else to talk about.
Before we talk for another 20 minutes and Brad ends up going to sleep at 7 in the morning and then not waking up until Monday.
Instant you hit stop.
But yeah, so yeah, that'll do for the stream tonight. That'll do for the podcast. I'm gonna upload this up onto YouTube. It'll be youtube.com/ArdentZephyr. If you like any of the videos there, feel free to like, comment, subscribe.
And let Ardent know if he should kick me to the curb or bring me back. Why not?
more at 11, I guess. Yeah, more at 11.
In the morning? Fuck that.
We don't know yet, but yeah.
We don't
But yeah, that'll do. And yeah,
night, all.
have a good night, everybody. I appreciate each and every one of you for coming in, checking out the stream. And I will see you tomorrow. We'll figure out what we're doing. Brad hasn't told me what we're planning to do on Sunday, raid day, but we'll see what happens. So yeah. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Night.